Welcome, race fans. This is Paul Page, the voice of IndyCars. Today, we're at the hallowed grounds of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the greatest spectacle in racing. The Indy 500 event is brought to you by the Dark Horse IndyCar Series. From the Unzers to the Mears to Foyt and Andretti. Now it's Corley, Peterson, Davies, Garner, and team. You can expect high speeds, incredible wheel-to-wheel action, and intense drama you could get only in an IndyCar. So sit back and enjoy as your favorite drivers from all over the world take to the track. Dark Horse IndyCar drivers, start your engines.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, if you're on the East Coast. Good morning if you're on the West Coast. We bring you coverage of the season finale for the Dark Horse IndyCar Series Season 2. This is the 200-lap Indianapolis 500 at the hallowed ground of Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I'm Seth Cole alongside of Samuel Dyer. And Sam, the championship's already decided, but these drivers want to be able to end out the season with a trip to victory lane at one of the crown jewel racetracks on the racing circuit.
It's a full race here. Those 200 laps for 500 miles. It is going to be a wild race for sure. Draft is going to be the most important thing, as well as keeping your car intact. These drivers are going to have 2 fast repairs to work with, so you're going to be able to take some damage, come in, get that damage repaired, and get back out on track. But I got to say, Nick DeGroot, our driver's champion, he is really someone to watch out for this race. I think he might be the odds-on favorite to win here today.
As we take a look at the point standings coming into today's festivities, there you can see why the championship is locked up. 117 points, Nick DeGroot over Craig Forsythe. So there is no way DeGroot can lose the championship here today. Everybody here, though, is going to be trying to deny Nick DeGroot an opportunity of going to victory lane for a 6th time this season. That's why he's up as high as he is. 5 trips to victory lane in the first 10 races of the season.
Yeah, and he actually came in later in the season. He's only raced in 8 of the 10 races, so crazy to see how this driver has just been evolving throughout the season and just been dominant since he touched into this series. And excited to see how the drivers are going to react for these 500 miles in the Dark Horse IndyCar Series.
We've had a total of 6 drivers that have gone to victory lane so far this year. We'll see if we're going to have a 7th as the pace car leads the field off of the grid on the front straightaway. We'll take a look at the starting lineup for today's event, and it will be Matt Wagner in the 16 who is going to line up on point. This is his 2nd pole of the season. He had the pole a couple of weeks ago at Twin Ring Motegi.
Yeah, Matt Wagner coming in with a very quick time. Going to be beating out Nick DeGroot by 1/100th of a second, which is crazy to see how fast these drivers are. Our top 7 all within a 10th of one another.
We were watching these drivers in practice here, Sam, and we saw a lot of drivers utilizing the term the slingshot, utilizing the draft, getting alongside, using the side draft to continue the momentum to make a pass. You already touched on the fact that they've got those 2 fast repairs, and it's a long ways to go in this one, 200 circuits around this racetrack. So do we see aggressive racing like that even in the early stages of this race?
Yeah, I'm expecting here in these first couple of laps, drivers, they're going to be as close as they're going to be all race long on these restarts. So you're better off trying to make the big moves now. Drivers might be thinking about going 3 wide into corner number 1 or even into corner number 3. Those are going to be the spots you're going to be seeing most of the passes being done on the front stretch and the back stretch.
Getting ready to go green flag racing here today at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It is, to say the least, an endurance race for these drivers here. They're going to have to keep themselves mentally aware of everything around them for 200 circuits, as it's going to be the 16 of Matt Wagner, the 89 of Nick DeGroot leading us down, and the Season 2 Dark Horse IndyCar Series Indianapolis 500 is green.
Wagner got a fantastic start, but it's going to be the driver that's going to be in 3rd place. It's going to be making even a better start here, coming through, and right now, Nick DeGroot running in 2nd place.
Off of turn 1, we already got a spinner. Another car went up in the air. Caution's going to fly. I believe that was the 32. No, I'm sorry, the 18 of Jeff Hysong. There's more cars actually littered through the turn 2 exit.
Yeah, it looks like AJ Musselman as well as Hysong. I believe there might have been Hobson as well, and the 33 machine was involved as well as a lot of machines before we even got to corner number 1, already wrecking out.
It was hard to tell who the car was that initially snapped loose, but they were third or fourth on that inside line going into turn 1. They spun down to the inside, and I think most of the other cars that we saw, they were all trying to avoid in case that car came back up the racing surface. We'll go back, take a more in-depth look with our replay.
It's going to be AJ Hobson. That was that initial car that you were talking about that gets loose through corner number 1.
We'll see what happens with the 63. And I gotta wonder, does this come down maybe to the cold tires here at the initial start of this race, just not able to find that rear end grip early on?
Yeah, it's honestly, that looks like to be the main issue. Also, it looks like Hobson might have been just turning a little bit too much, might have clipped the apron or the rumble strip there, and could have been the reason why he started to lose the back end and started to loop on him.
I believe that orange car that got into the back of the car we're focused on right here, the 18 of Jeff Heisong, I think that was the 99 of Jimmy Drynan. We'll look and see to confirm on that, just indeed who it was that got into the back of the 18. Also getting some damage was the 86 of Todd Schneider. And I'm also curious about that car that I saw jump up into the air there, almost kind of did a little bit of a wheelie in turn 1.
Believe that's actually going to be Schneider. That was that driver that had the incident and got up and almost did a wheelie through corner number 1 in that 86 car.
When you just see the contact and the damage there, the whole front nose almost detached there, the whole left front wheel gone off of, that is the 86 of Todd Schneider, that orange machine. And another thing that you and I were talking about here pre-race was the damage model. I mean, these drivers, they're going out there 215 to 220 miles per hour is their top speed, especially when they're in the draft, and they take a hit anywhere on this racetrack, it's just going to rip that car apart.
Yeah, it kind of looks like an explosion when these cars hit the wall now. As with the old damage model, it used to just crinkle the tires in, you just lose the front wing, and that'd be it. Now you see, just like you said, the nose detaches from itself, and the wheels almost completely break off of the cars, as some machines are coming into the pits to get some fuel, tires, and to get that first repair and first fast repair done.
We got Kevin McCarthy, Jimmy Drynan, Joe McAdory, also Jim Brooks, AJ Musselman, and Jeff Heisong all coming down pit road. Heisong still sitting on pit road getting some damage repaired. And going back to the 86 there of Todd Schneider, we saw on the replay how he was not able to get the car refired and leave the scene of the accident. Much like we see when a car gets flipped over, they're having to call a tow back to pit road, and still serving that tow is the 86 of Schneider, so he currently is 2 laps down to the leaders. Now, the good news is, despite this being an IndyCar series, there is a lucky dog rule in place. So if we were to see a couple of cautions come out between here and the end of the race, and Schneider were able to be the first car 1 lap down, he could get himself back into the running for this victory.
Yeah, and Schneider's going to be in pits probably for another minute to 2 minutes, and that could possibly put him another lap down. Currently 2 laps down, could become 3. More drivers just trying to get their car going. Lights on the pace car still on, so we're going to take at least another lap around.
Now, we saw on the initial start of this race, it was double file coming to the start-finish line. Now I do believe that per IndyCar rules, it will be single file restarts, and Matt Wagner, being the control car, as soon as the pace car ducks onto pit road, he gets the opportunity to be able to accelerate from that point to the start-finish line wherever he wants to. We were privy to the manual for the drivers meeting, and one thing these drivers have to do if they are the race leader, though, once they go, they have to continue accelerating. There can't be any kind of mind games or trying to stack the field up.
Yeah, and that was the way a lot of the drivers used to get away with a lot of fabulous restarts, was to stack the field up of take off, back off on the throttle, make them all accordion up onto one another, and then take off again and get a better launch. Now with the fact that once you get into the throttle, you have to start taking off and continue accelerating. It's now making it a lot easier for the drivers behind to time these restarts of, hey, once that pace car is off, I need to go now and just keep going from that point on.
Todd Schneider has left pit road. He's returned back to the track, so all 24 cars will come around to receive the green flag for this restart, which will be on lap 5 of 200. Matt Wagner, the race leader, Nick DeGroot in second. That wreck in turn 1 shuffled up the top 10 a little bit as Craig Forsythe now up to third, Eric Peterson fourth, Max Davies in fifth. Then it's David Leclaire, Charles Johnson, Benjamin Combs, Corey Lane, and Garrett Corley. That's going to be the top 10. We go back green. Keep an eye on that pace car because he's going to be ducking to pit lane this time, and we're going to be in the control of Matt Wagner for this restart.
Well, Marie, looking at the lights, we are not going to be going exactly this time by until they cross the line. We'll see if the drivers are set and ready to go. We're still waiting to see when the drivers are all going to be in line. I believe everyone is ready as a pack of machines actually have pulled into the pit road late here. And that's going to be interesting because now they're going to be trying to get service done for some of these vehicles.
Might want to check and make sure you're live there, Sam, because we actually are back.
I was not.
We are back under the green flag here into turn 1. Top 3 pull away. Battle might be for 4th between Eric Peterson, the purple 36, and the powder blue 51 of Max Davies behind him.
And Max Davies going to be trying to make that move on the inside, doing a great job for himself. Now Nick DeGroot getting a momentum down the back stretch, coming on the outside, trying to make the pass for the lead.
This is what we call the slingshot, and DeGroot's going to do it to perfection before they even get over to the entrance of turn 3. Around the outside he goes, and Nick DeGroot, we can call him the champion because he's got it locked up. He's going to lead the field down here and lead his first lap of the Indy 500.
And this is the mind games we're going to be seeing all race long. It's going to be slingshot after slingshot, pass after pass, as the momentum that these drivers carry, as it looks like Wagner not able to make the pass just yet, holds strong on the outside though, as they're still side by side through 1 and 2.
Got a car that was in the wall back there. I think that might have been the 50 of David Leclaire. That was over in turn 1. He was able to gather it back up in the center of 1 and 2. Nobody hit him, but these wheels are exposed. It's called open wheel racing for a reason, and you hit that outside wall, it's going to do a lot of suspension problems.
Yeah, and you're hoping that you kind of hit the wall like a pancake and really flat, and so you don't damage the wheel at all. Right now, still holding strong for right now. It's still side-by-side racing for our leaders. But going to take a look back and see exactly how Leclaire is doing right now.
As we watch this battle still for the lead between DeGroot and Wagner, you saw that last time by, the inside line of the front straightaway got DeGroot the lap led. I'm pretty sure that the last lap around, Matt Wagner had been able to edge Nick DeGroot at the start-finish line on the outside to lead that previous lap. So that's something we're going to have to keep in mind as well, that even though someone may be running in second place on the final lap off turn 4, if they were able to pull the slingshot off at just the right moment, they may be able to get the edge ahead at the start-finish line with the checkered flag waving.
Yeah, you also got to think, though, that on that white flag coming to the end, how much really blocking is there going to be seen as DeGroot goes straight to the wall trying to defend that line and trying to make Wagner make the pass on the outside. And it's so difficult, especially due to the fact that Wagner's catching Nick DeGroot at such not an optimal time. He loses speed on these back stretches, and this is where DeGroot starts to pull away.
Thing about it as well that we're going to be talking about during the entire course of this race, the tire that gets the most pressure at Indianapolis, based on the fact it's not a whole lot of banking that these cars are able to lean into, is that right front tire. And going back to what you were talking about, the line that Nick DeGroot was running down the front straightaway all the way down to the pit wall, that kind of hurts his entrance into turn 1.
Yeah, it really does. And it's with him staying so low, I mean, that's what's giving Wagner the possibility of a pass here on the outside. But he needs to try to make the pass possibly through 3 and 4. And that's where we saw Nick DeGroot make the pass for the lead. And right now, Wagner still not able to make the pass just yet as both drivers continue to stay side by side.
Yeah, that's the best battle right now up inside of the top 10. Now we have a battle for 3rd. Craig Forsythe looks to driver's left and sees Max Davies trying to pass him for a spot inside of the podium. We also got a driver back there battling, it looks around the 7th position. I believe that is David Leclaire under fire from the 77 of Benjamin Combs. Woo, ducking out of line there was Leclaire. He's actually now looking for 6th. That's on Charles Johnson.
Yeah, and you talked about how David Leclaire bounced off the wall slightly. That damage, it does not look like it's too bad for that 50 machine as he's still carrying that momentum and still in the top 10.
Dodging a bullet there. Just to update on drivers that had to utilize their fast repairs under our only caution up to this point. It was like Joe McAdory, Jeff Heisung, AJ Musselman, Jeffrey Duncan, and Todd Schneider. Those are drivers that utilized fast repairs. Actually, possibly as well the 99 of Jimmy Drynan. I think the 44 of Kevin McCarthy may have actually just come down and topped off the fuel tank. So I think he's still got his 2 fast repairs intact.
As the driving still up front, still side by side, Nick DeGroot defending the inside lane, and he's just going to continue this all race long as we're only on lap 11 of 200. This is going to be a long one for these drivers, and you got to wonder, for the drivers that are going to be trying to make the passes that they can. Wagner, I think right now, I mean, it's so hard to say, hey, back off, try to set up for the next corner, because with these Indy cars, your goal is to keep your momentum and to continue moving it forward. If you slow down at all, you're going to be passed by multiple machines.
You're looking right now at the battle for 14th. That's the 99 of Jimmy Drynan, who was involved in the lap 1, turn 1 caution. He's got Nicholas Wunk right behind him, but these guys are all running about 5 seconds behind the lead group. So something must have happened, like some kind of a checkup perhaps on the restart, and it has broken up this first group of about 13 back to that second pack.
Yeah, and they were staying pretty close to this front pack for a while, and it looked like it might have been the 99 that had the issue that made everyone kind of drop back for a second.
Matt Wagner and Nick DeGroot continue to battle side by side here, with DeGroot down on that inside line, Wagner up on the top line. In terms of tire wear and whatnot, who do you think is using up the most rubber in the lines that they're running?
Right now in the lines that they're running, I would say most likely Nick DeGroot is running with the best wear, with the way that he's on the inside, keeping where he's at. Right now it's going to be Wagner that's kind of having to crank it a little bit harder on these exits, trying to make sure that he doesn't run into Nick DeGroot, who's on his inside. And now, seeing right now, Wagner going to be going to the inside. We talked about Leclaire and the fact that he didn't have too much damage. That 50 machine has been cutting his way through the field up to second place now.
Cutting his right on board here with Craig Forsythe, and you just saw the 50 slice his way for third, up to second, and now all over the back bumper of DeGroot for the race lead.
And Leclaire head of steam with that 50 machine, and once again Nick DeGroot defending the inside. We'll see if Leclaire on the outside has the strength. Wagner wasn't able to do it, and now he's going to just drop and follow here on the 89 machine. I think Leclaire set up perfectly for the backstretch to try to make a pass here on DeGroot.
Yeah, we see a lot of times one-on-one battles of drivers trying to get around each other. Very rarely do you see a driver have enough speed and be able to utilize the draft perfectly to pass two cars in one straightaway, and that is what Leclaire was able to do. And now he's trying to see if he can put his machine out in front. Up to the second groove he goes, now cuts it back down to the inside, back into the draft of DeGroot down the front stretch, and now he'll jump back to the outside, heading for the start-finish line.
You also got to watch out for that 317 coming now to third place, as Alexander is coming with a head of steam for himself as well.
Alexander Desant ended up taking a checkered flag back at Watkins Glen earlier on this season. Had a decent outing last week at the Donington Park Racing Circuit National as well, jumping up 2 spots in the standings. He's 7th in points coming into today's finale.
And Leclaire trying his best to make this pass, just not able to. Now, I gotta say, Alexander, he's been having a great run for himself because he started back in 17th. He's now up to third place for that 317 machine.
All of a sudden, it's looking like what was kind of a spread out single file train with a couple of side-by-side battles here and there inside the top 10. You've got about 8, 9 cars all wadded up now, and this is kind of where you get a little bit nervous because just the slightest little error can have catastrophic results.
Yeah, and continuing to watch drivers moving up and down the field. A driver that's been dropping back, that's going to be Eric Peterson in that 36 machine. He was up around 4th, 5th position, has dropped all the way down in 9th place. Watching
a third lane actually be run there through 1 and 2, and now here through 3 and 4. A little bit of a higher entry into the corner. That's the 20 of Corey Lane. Corey Lane now into that 4th spot, riding in the tire tracks of Alexander Desant. Now he's jumping up to the top. We may be 3 wide here momentarily for this top position.
You don't really want to be too high. I mean, if they're too wide, it works out. If you go 3 wide through these corners, I don't see anyone surviving that type of really stressing on these vehicles. It gets too narrow coming out of these corners. You got to be careful going that wide for that long. But right now, Nick DeGroot still holding strong on the inside. As Leclaire, I mean, it just seems like the driver that's stuck on the outside, not able to confirm and make that pass. And it might be due to the fact that the tire wear, something that's starting to kick in for those drivers, as Leclaire comes with a head of steam. And we'll continue to watch and see, but Leclaire is getting closer and closer to making that pass. That time around, it was Nick DeGroot who crossed the line by 4 thousandths of a second.
Do you think that maybe for Leclaire to complete the pass, he's going to need maybe a push from behind, maybe like the bubble push that we see a lot of times in the aerodynamic races from possibly Descent, maybe Corey Lane?
I mean, yes, that would be very helpful to get that type of a bubble push, but I think it's also just trying to make sure that when you're coming off the corner, you're not directly on top of the driver that you're trying to pass. You have a little bit of space to get that, carry that momentum, just like we saw there by Leclaire, able to stay in the draft for a little bit, and now try to duck it to the inside, but they're 3 wide almost for a second there for 5th place.
Yes, they are. Max Davies is now joining into that group along with Charles Johnson. They were the ones that were 3 wide with Alexander Descent heading into turn 1. And these drivers doing a lot of slicing and dicing down these straightaways. Saw Corey Lane go from top to bottom. Descent went from bottom to top. These drivers all trying to find a little bit of clean air and try to utilize the draft gear, still trying to get around that 89 of Nick DeGroot, who seems like his strategy is clear. If you're going to pass him, you've got to do it around the outside because that 89 is not coming off the white line of the bottom.
Yeah, and this is a great defensive move by DeGroot. Just stay close to that pit wall. Don't give a chance. Leclerc's going to try once again on the outside as well. We're starting to see Lane and Descent continuing to be side by side for that 3rd place position, which is now giving chances for Johnson to possibly put his nose in this battle for 3rd place.
Did you see that for a brief moment the last time they came around the front straightaway? And here it is again. DeGroot's all by himself down there on the inside line down the backstretch. Everybody else was lined up on the top side there, but DeGroot, with that shorter way around the racetrack, still able to hold him at bay.
Yeah, and it's the fact that he's in the most preferred lane for these corners, so he's able to hold that strength, actually get the momentum and the good corner exit that's keeping this pace. But here comes Descent on the inside, thinking about going 3 wide for his second there, but it's just going to hold strong following DeGroot.
Look at him fan out about 5 different lanes down the front straightaway, then converge into 2, maybe 2.5 lanes going into turn 1. One aspect of this race we have not touched on yet, and we've managed to now make it almost an 1/8 of the way through this race, is that treacherous pit road. These drivers are going 220, some of them in the draft 230 miles per hour. They're going to have to back their speed down to the pit road speed to make sure they don't get any type of penalties, because that could play detrimentally to the outcome of the race for them. And a lot of them more than likely are going to be coming down around the same time. So that's another thing that hopefully these drivers all had in terms of team communication about possible group pitting.
Yeah, right now looking at the way Nick DeGroot is, he's been up front for most of this time. Also, the drivers did have the pit road pacing to try to save fuel during that time as well. The fuel run's looking around 28 to 32 laps. Matters on who's really utilizing the draft and staying in the draft, trying to save fuel that way. But also, you got to think, you talked about pit road speed. These drivers have to go from running 215 miles per hour down to 60 miles per hour in just a small stretch.
For a brief moment there, David Leclaire was edged ahead of Nick DeGroot going into turn 3, but now he's got a lot of drivers fighting to his inside. You can see here as we're looking inside of the driver cockpit, there's the 317 to his inside of Alexander Van Descent.
Van Descent able to make that pass there and able to really continue forward, able to get by Leclaire. Now going to pop out to the outside, trying to make the pass on here of Nick DeGroot. Looks like he's got a shot, but just still side by side. And when we saw Nick DeGroot make the pass for the lead on Wagner earlier, he made the pass before they even entered the corner on the backstretch. That's something we're going to have to see from these other drivers, but it's going to take some more time and some more effort and probably some fresh new tires.
Yeah, he did it, as you said, when the tires were fresh. He also did it when the cars were getting themselves up to full song. Now that everybody is up to full speed, it makes it a little bit more difficult, and you have to kind of be a little bit more methodical in how you're going to get around for the top position. Just an update on that second group of race cars. The last time we checked in, they were running nearly 6 to 7 seconds behind this lead pack. This lead pack's done a lot of battling all the way from first back to 13th place. The gap has now been cut down a bit. It's now about 5.5 seconds from, I believe it, the 13th place car is AJ Hobson back to 14th, Joe McAdory, who's leading that second group.
Yeah, McAdory was someone that actually pitted during that caution, so able to get tires, fuel, and a fast repair done for that 44 machine. Will be able to go longer than everyone else that's out here. And that's going to be something that's going to be a factor to watch out for, as it's going to be Leclaire dropping back to 4th place. And here comes Desant on the outside of Nick DeGroot once again, trying to get some help from Corey Lane.
We also had an unscheduled pit stop, apparently, about 12 laps ago. Garrett Corley came down pit lane, and it's hard to tell what kind of a pit stop it was for the 7 machine, but it has him now trapped a lap down. Corley, I believe, was 10th when we went back green on the first restart.
I believe Corley might have been one of those drivers. We were seeing a couple of drivers bouncing off the wall. We saw Leclaire grazed it at one point. I think Corley might have been one of the drivers that hit it too hard, had to come into the pits.
It's like he may have possibly come in for a faster pair. We're going to have to figure that out here as, man, Desant keeps on peeking out there. The question I have is he peeking out just a little bit too early? Because, yes, he edges ahead here when they get to turn 3, but he just is not able to get the momentum he needs when they get to the center of 3 and 4.
It's a little early, but also I think it's just the fact that there's not enough spacing between the drivers. Once you get in line, the pull on the toe of the draft is just so strong. But that was a good run right there from Alexander Van Desant, and almost had enough momentum, but just needs a little bit more spacing. And it's hard to try to get any spacing from the car that you're trying to battle with, because like I said, if you back off at all, you're going to be basically brake checking the cars behind you that are all still going basically full throttle through these corners.
And the tough thing is, too, if you were in a stock car and you were trying to pull off this move, more than likely you would be apt on that top side to try and pinch that car on the inside line down, try and hurt their corner exit, all the while continuing the side draft, which is pulling them back to you. With the fact, as we just mentioned, with these open-wheel race cars, the wheels are exposed. You don't really have that option.
It's going to be Charles Johnson coming with a head of steam on the inside. He's been waiting and lingering in 5th place. There's just been a wall of cars before he could start making a move here with this 14 machine, and he's trying to find himself how to get by Corey Lane, just not able to at the moment. And right now, I mean, it's looking like Nick DeGroot, best defensive move, just stay on the inside. And this is something that, you know, Seth, you and I have both watched of other Indy cars, where whenever you're at an oval type course, the inside line is where the leader is going to stay almost all race long, just to not give the other drivers a chance to make a pass on the inside.
Exactly. It's the shorter way around the racetrack, so if someone's going to make a pass, you're forcing them to take the long way around, and at the same time, you're also taking away their opportunity to be able to get to your inside, and maybe if you try and throw a block on them, who knows? Oh, we got a spare! That's Johnson in the 14!
And since he's on the inside and not on the track surface, we stay green. He's back up into the wall. Another car's going to be up in the wall. That's going to be Eric Peterson, who's now going to stop sideways. His car broke, and now he's going to go for a toe caution.
No. Oh, I was worried about this. When I saw the 14 was driving away, I knew that second group of cars were coming, and he was still in the racing line. He hit somebody there. I couldn't tell who. It just ripped the whole right rear panel off his machine. Caution had to come out.
Looking back to see exactly who that was, believe, oh goodness, it was the 33 machine.
That would be Nicholas Wunk, and oh my goodness. Oh, that had my heart in my throat, no doubt about it, because I knew that second group was coming and the caution wasn't out. They were still going to be in the throttle, and that could have been absolutely catastrophic if that second pack, if like 2 or 3 of those drivers had hit the wounded 14 of Charles Robinson, or make that Charles Johnson.
Yeah, and also you had Eric Peterson. He was also a driver that got collected with the 14, bouncing back in front of the course. He was on the rear end of that first pack of cars. But I mean, that's one of those things where in the moment, you got to react as fast as possible. And if you hesitate, you're going to be putting yourself in danger and other cars in danger. And I think Charles Johnson probably should have dumped that 14 onto the apron, try to get off the course as fast as possible. But the cars just close up so quick behind you that he just never had a chance to react quick enough to get below.
You saw there when Johnson slid up the track and clipped the back of Eric Peterson, who is on pit road. We're now going to go and see if there was any contact that spun the 14 around, or if he just lost it on his own, because it was kind of hard to tell from the camera angle that we saw live.
This caution came at a prime time, as all of the pack is going to be coming into the pits this time around, knowing that they are good to make it to come into the pits. They were just on that bubble of having to come into pit road, so this caution came at a very prime time.
Well, that camera angle did not give us much of an idea there, as he was already spinning. when the camera was focused on him in the center of 1 and 2. We'll see if this one's going to give us a better idea. It's the 20 of Jones, too, is outside, and it's just hard to tell if there was contact or not. But there you see the contact was with the front when he got up into the 36 of Peterson, just ripped the whole nose there. And then, of course, as we documented after here, there's the contact right there that gives him even more damage to the right rear.
Yeah, I mean, it was close between, like you said, the 14 and the 50 were the ones that almost made contact. And yes, there was contact. Somehow Leclaire was able to continue driving in that 50 machine because his tire actually exploded on my screen. So it's surprising to see that the 50 machine of Leclaire was able to continue driving and was most likely had to use a fast repair on this pit stop.
So Nick DeGroot able to take a little bit of a break here, catch his breath. He's been able to hold off the field so far as his number 89 still out in front. Alexander Desant right now in second. Max Davies, Matt Wagner, the pole sitter, and David Leclaire is your top 5. I believe with this caution coming out, Gary Corley is going to get the free pass. Was going to document before we end up having the 14 spinning. We saw Todd Schneider bring his 86 back down pit road for another pit stop, so he has now fallen 3 laps down to the race leader. And Eric Peterson, who is still under that teleport, he fell 2 laps down to the leaders. I believe he is now leaving pit road. Gary Corley still scored a lap down, but I think he is the lucky dog driver when we do go back green. But we're closing in on a quarter of the way through this race here, Sam, and we've seen drivers fighting to get around the outside of Nick DeGroot. The big question now is just kind of what little bit more do they need to be able to get around that 89 machine, because so far everything's working out fine for him.
I think right now was probably the prime time to make that pass. Nick DeGroot going to be having to try to get up to speed, and the other drivers are going to be trying to get up to speed at the same time, as well as having the draft as a boost to try to help them try to make this pass. So Alexander Desant going to be having a very optimal position right now with this caution coming out to try to make this pass on the 89 machine.
Lights are out atop the pace car. We're going to go back green flag racing this time around. They'll be on lap 33, which will give us a total of 164 laps to go in this race. So far, we've had a couple of drivers out in front. Matt Wagner has led, I believe, 1 or 2 laps, and then Nick DeGroot has led the rest. That purple machine back there, I'm trying to figure out. I thought I saw some smoke. I don't know if that was some wheel spin smoke or if that was black smoke for a possible engine problem.
There was a car that was just sitting on the backstretch, just hanging out all by themselves. I'm trying to figure out who exactly that was, as that was actually going to be the 13 machine that was at a complete stop.
It's Krista Nelson. So I'm not sure what was going on with that machine. Currently scored in 10th place. Looks like that car is still running, so still in the running for this victory, as indeed Gary Corley was the recipient of the free pass, and we saw the 54 of AJ Musselman. He came down pit road, got a little bit of damage repaired, it looked like, on that machine, returned back to the track. He'll restart 22nd as all 24 cars still running, 22 on the lead lap, and Nick DeGroot about to lead them down here to the green flag. And look at this, waiting a little bit is the 89, finally up through the gears.
Yeah, I mean, still trying to pack the field up and then take off when you can. Remember, when you accelerate, you cannot back off on these restarts. So you got to think a little bit outside the box, how you're going to be getting your restarts here. And Nick DeGroot hoping that he's got a big enough lead. But Alexander Desant going to be still right there and set up for a pass as he's got the momentum in the draft to the inside. It's the 317.
He is going to get the inside line, and he'll complete the pass. DeGroot left it open for maybe the first time in the last 25 laps. So Alexander Desant.
Oh no, Leclaire hard into the wall. The 50 machine exploded and stuck on the outside out of 3.
No caution yet. Is he still up in that upper line? Oh no! He comes down to traffic and gets nailed by, I think that might have possibly been Gary Corley.
Oh.
No, 32, Jeffrey Duncan.
Duncan had nowhere to go. He was stuck in his lane. And once a car is so broke, you really have no control of where you're going to be. You can't even hold the brake at that point. And man,
saw that the red lights were on saying pit road was closed. That's why the 32 turned back onto the racetrack, but with no right front tire, he's going to have to try and limp that thing back around to pit lane.
I think if anything, it might have been better to take the penalty and just drive into pit road, get that car repaired, and hope that another caution comes out. But Duncan going to be trying his best to just limp this thing, like you said. But he is struggling to get around these corners. He might find himself up into the wall with only driving with 3 wheels at the moment.
There might have been another driver involved in this as well, Sam. Saw the 99 of Jimmy Drynan sitting on pit road without a front wing, so he might have been collected up in this in some way also.
Going through and trying to see exactly what happened. I think he might have gotten spun around at a different part of the course. That was a self-spin on himself. He didn't even get to where the carnage was. He came into corner number 1 a little bit too hard, got into the grass, and dumped it into the outside wall, had to teleport himself into pit road.
We'll be taking a look and seeing what happened to him there. As there you saw the hard shot, David Leclaire and Jeffrey Duncan. And you just see the wounds, the battle scars on the front of that number 32. As he then brings it back up onto the racetrack. Let's actually take an onboard with the 32 before we eventually go back and see what happened to the 99 of Jimmy Drynan. "35 laps in here, Sam, and already we've had quite a number of torn up race cars. And I'm trying to remember about the 32 of Jeffrey Duncan, if he was one of those drivers that already had utilized a fast repair. Now, we know David Leclaire, if he uses one, it will be his first. But that 32 might be out of fast repairs, and we haven't even reached a quarter of the way through this race.
I believe Jeffrey Duncan still has one to work with. I believe that... No, actually, yeah, you might be right. He could be out of it because this is going to be his 3rd pit stop for himself. And yeah, Duncan, this could be possibly his final fast repair once he finds himself into the pits, as he's still lumbering this 32 machine around and getting passed by Peterson that time, who Peterson is going to be the lucky dog for this caution. Going to be finding himself back on the lead lap for that 36 machine. As also David Leclaire, who was up front battling in our top 5, almost had a chance for the lead. Now he'll be multiple laps down due to having to teleport that 50 machine after the collisions that he's had on this last caution.
As you saw that onboard that we had there with Jeffrey Duncan, and there's just no opportunity to be able to react in time. This type of car and this type of track reminds me an awful lot of racing at Bristol, because it's a situation of, if you choose a line going into the corner, you're committed to that line all the way through the rest of that turn. And if there's trouble there's just no opportunity to change your lane on a dime.
Yeah, and that is something that these drivers are going to have to deal with really for a long time. And I think there might have been an issue with David Leclaire. These drivers do have a fast repair to work with, but when you have to come into the pits, you have to click for the fast repair before you teleport. And I think David Leclaire might have made the mistake of not hitting that button, and I think his race might be done.
David Leclaire, who spent most of the first 30 laps of this race up inside of the top 5, and I think you are right. I think they actually have pushed that number 50 back to the garage area. So up to this point, despite the fact we had some drivers that may not necessarily have been on the lead lap, all 24 drivers were still out there on the track. Looks like there will only be 23 when we come back around here for what's going to be our 3rd restart of the day.
As right now, Alexander Desant has to be slightly irritated because he finally made the pass for the lead. They got past Nick DeGroot, what they needed to do, and if they stayed green, I think that 89 machine would have been stuck in 2nd place or even dropping further back. Now Nick DeGroot is in the prime spot to be making the pass for the lead on the backstretch, just like what we saw Sedant do.
Top 10 has shuffled up yet again. Alexander Desant, you mentioned, the race leader. DeGroot back to 2nd. 3rd is Max Davies, Matt Wagner in 4th, and Craig Forsythe is in 5th. Corey Lane currently 6th. 7th is going to be Benjamin Combs. Kristen Nelson in 8th. Brandon Passalaqua in 9th, and 10th is going to be AJ Hobson. One thing that we didn't talk about here back on the 2nd caution, and it's just as prevalent now as it was then, with that 2nd caution coming out, that group that was back there, that 2nd group, this has now brought them all back up here towards the top 10.
Yeah, and now they're going to be having a chance here to try to make their charge through, get a better restart. Speaking of restarts, we are green once again as the field is taking off. And Alexander, think of the same strategy as Nick DeGroot did on that last restart. Wait until everyone feels like they're pretty packed in and then finally take off.
Yeah, and something that you were touching on back on the last restart about DeGroot was he wanted to get himself far enough ahead, and the reason is, as we're seeing right here, DeGroot now behind Desant, able to get into the draft, and that gives him such a toe down the back straightaway to be able to make a move like this into 3.
You might be wondering, why aren't we seeing these leaders defending the inside on the restart? I mean, it's an understanding of, hey, that car's going to be way faster than me. I'm just going to give you that space and try to fight back on the next straightaway.
Yeah, you can't defend it. If you try to defend it, more than likely you and they are going to be wrecked by the time you get down to the next corner.
And here they come to the inside, and DeGroot's understanding as well as we're still trying to get back up to speed in the inside groove, trying to make a pass here. As there goes Alexander Desant as well as Max Davies, who we haven't really seen up in our top 3 just yet, trying to make a pass here on DeGroot.
STP colors to the inside of Nick DeGroot. Ooh, DeGroot might have gotten a better exit off of turn 2, though. Davies going to have to slot back in 3rd. Matt Wagner in that blue machine. He's your pole sitter. He's back in the 4th spot, trying to reel in the top 3. Greg Forsythe right behind him in 5th.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what Forsythe might have for us here. This 131 has the potential of being a driver that kind of might be, just for pun situations, a dark horse for this race here today to see if he can try to sneak this one as in the inside. Nick DeGroot finding the speed and able to make the pass for the lead.
We'll see if Nick DeGroot goes back to the strategy he had earlier on of defending the inside line. Desant runs a little wide there through 3 and 4, trying to see if he can get the run down the back straightaway. Actually, that was 1 and 2, my apologies. And he was able to actually cross over Nick DeGroot. He's going to go back to the point by the time they get to turn 3.
And, maybe DeGroot was finding out that just staying on the inside and battling so much actually was putting a lot more wear and tear on those tires. So thinking, hey, I'll let the car pass, and then I'll come back fighting at this position again and just going back and forth and trying to figure out how to save his tires for the best.
Yeah, maybe as well, kind of putting what he learned back in those first 30 laps in his memory bank for later on in this race if he finds himself out in front. Now utilizing this portion of the race to be in the scenario, hey, if I'm 4th or 5th with about 15 laps to go, do I have the car capable of making moves, and where is my car best in making those said moves?
And as we've been seeing our front 2 really just dashing back and forth, we're seeing Corey Lane trying to make the 3rd lane work. And what he's doing is trying to put more rubber on the outside. So later in the race, they've got the grip to try to make the pass on the outside work, as well as trying to carry more momentum on these straightaways.
Saw a little smoke back there. Don't worry about it. That's car blinking in and out. Sometimes that happens, but everybody's still, for the most part, keeping it clean and green as field pretty spread out right now. We're still seeing this battling back and forth between DeGroot and Desant, but everybody else, for the most part, is all running nose to tail. So everybody, I think, after these 3 early cautions, realizing, hey, there's still a long ways to go in this one. We're not even yet to the lap 50 mark, so let's calm it down a little bit. Keep our equipment in check.
Yeah, and drivers got to be thinking about pitting here probably in the next about 18 to about 20 laps or so. So around lap 60 is when we're going to be seeing drivers think about pit road if we stay green to that point.
We got some great battling continuing up here at the front. As you said, on the horizon, the potentiality of green flag pit stops for these drivers. We're going to step aside, though, for our first commercial break of the day. You're not going to miss a thing, though. We're going to go FRN side by side.
ETE Reman is the world's best remanufacturer of transmissions for import and domestic cars and trucks. Based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, our customers are repair shops, auto parts stores, dealerships, and distributors. And with 6 nationwide warehouses, we're where and when you need us. So when you're looking for a transmission that is like new, only better, instill confidence and install ETE Reman.
We're based out of West Monroe, Louisiana. We do custom T-shirts, racing. We'll do any shirt. We'll do schools, churches, fundraisers. We do a ton of event shirts, as you can see on our board here, all around our banner. Personalized. I mean, we'll do anything. It doesn't matter to us. We got the custom rugs. We use all the, top quality shirts, inks and everything. Hoodies, hats. We do embroidered hats, embroidered shirts. Just you can call us for anything. We do offer the bag and fold, to where you can receive them and they're already labeled and tagged and bagged, ready to give out to your customer and stuff. So you just call us and just tell us, hey, this is what we're looking at doing, and if we're going to put the car on there, it is 125 quantity minimum. If it's without the car, it's 60 quantity minimum. That's strictly on the racing stuff. If it's a business or something, if you race on Texas shirts, it's a little bit differently. You can call us. It just depends on your quantity and ink color. Everything is hand drawn. I mean, everything. We don't Photoshop anything onto a shirt or anything like that. Everything that we go through, everything is drawn, and which is the reason for the art fees. We do have several graphic artists that draw for us, and they're really good. So what we do is on any package that you do, we can mix and match. We can do any colors. You can do purple, red, blue, green, and do the rest black. It doesn't matter to us. With your design on there, we can do hoodies. We can do hoodies, long sleeve shirts, T-shirts, tank tops. It doesn't matter. I mean, it's almost limitless what you can do, and you can put all that together in that package to make that minimum requirements. They can call us 318-278-7191, or they can email us at bulletprooftees@yahoo.com, or they can go to the website bulletprooftees.com.
Hey, it's Wesley Outland of CRN Sports, one of the co-founders. I'm also one of the announcers on Live Sim Racing, LSR TV. We've recently partnered with LiveSimRacing.com to become the official radio partner of all of the esports events. What is CRN? Well, first off, we're going to be covering esports like it's never been done before with our MRN, PRN type radio atmosphere like you experience with NASCAR. In addition to that, we will cover the Northwest Trucking Cup Series, the Northwest Tour, and of course special events and sanctions like SWAG, and special events like 6 Hours at Daytona, and so much more. It's very simple to check out the racing action, whether on LSR TV, on Facebook and YouTube, or by listening. And that's how I want to help you real quickly. Go up simply to the website, wearecrn.com, wearecrn.com, click play, and you are set. It's that simple. We're excited to be the voice of live sim racing. We are CRN. Follow us at crn.com.
ETE Reman is the world's best remanufacturer of transmissions for import and domestic cars and trucks. Based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, our customers are repair shops, auto parts stores, dealerships, and
We welcome you back to Flatout Racing Network's coverage of the season finale of Season 2 of the Dark Horse IndyCar Series. This is the Indianapolis 500. We are closing in on the quarter of the way mark, lap 50 just in sight as Nick DeGroot continues to show the way. He and Alexander Van de Santo, they've been shuffling this race lead back and forth. Everybody else, for the most part, though, seems to be slotted in where they are here, Sam, and we're closing in on that potentiality of our first round of green flag pit stops.
Van de Sant probably had one of the biggest scares as Max Davies had to back out of almost running into that driver as Van de Sant backed up front, getting past Nick DeGroot. And we've been just seeing these drivers during commercial just dashing back and forth for the lead. Is everyone behind DeGroot and Van de Sant that just haven't really been able to make the moves that often for these drivers? The car that I've been watching that's been on the move, though, is the 77 machine of Benjamin Cobbs that's been doing a great job in 6th place at the moment. But he was making a hard charge right before we went to commercial break. He kind of stalled out for now, but still looking like he's got some decent pace as long as we can get some new tires. It just seems like everyone's kind of stalled out and are staying where they're at.
DeSant and DeGroot continue the side-by-side back and forth. Now DeSant to the point. If you're just joining us, we've worked 3 cautions in this race so far. Currently, we have 20 of our drivers still on the lead lap of 23 running. Jimmy Drynan, Todd Schneider, and Jeffrey Duncan all currently off the lead lap. One driver out of the race. That is David Leclaire in the 50, who was involved in the latest yellow. And also, the championship battle. There is none coming into this finale. Nick DeGroot came into this race 117 points over Craig Forsythe. So for every driver in the field here today, it's just the opportunity to finish out this season with a trip to victory lane.
Yeah, you might be wondering, where is Forsythe? He's back in 5th place as we're still watching our leaders just slingshotting past one another. A driver that's just been staying in 3rd place, that's going to be Corey Lane, just been lingering on that outside. Right before we went to commercial break, I was talking about how the fact that he is really trying to work in that outside lane for later on. Got to remember, Nick DeGroot, for the first green flag run that we really had, he was staying on the inside and was forcing everyone to try to make the pass on the outside. That's something that we might see later on in this race, but right now it looks like Nick DeGroot feeling pretty comfortable just letting Van de Sant make the passes whenever he wants.
Got a driver ducking out of line back there. That's Kevin McCarthy in the 44, looking to the inside of Kristen Nelson for 8th. Now tucks back in line into the 9th position. So that's the first battle we've really seen outside of the top 2 here. Inside of the top 10, things now settle back out to single file formation yet again. Just to touch again on Craig Forsythe as well. He may be 117 points out of winning this championship, but he has had such a consistent season, and why we know that? He's 2nd in the points and didn't visit victory lane a single time this year. So, obviously the hardship of not being able to hoist the championship trophy at the end of the year, but certainly not a season to hang your head about.
Yeah, and right now, this is the final race of the season. It's a long one, 200 laps, 500 miles for the Indy 500. And you got to be thinking, hey, this is a great momentum race. If you can get a win here, you can really carry that forward into season 3.
Now we've got those green flag pit stops coming up here, and it is as much physical getting onto pit road as it is mental. This is an endurance race here, Sam. We've now made it a quarter of the way through. When does the fatigue start to set in for these drivers, do you think?
I think it's going to be around the halfway marker for some of these drivers. You've been seeing a lot of dashing back and forth. And driving so close to one another, you're always focused and trying to think in the moment, how quick can you react? And your reaction time has to be on it in the moment. We've seen a couple of cautions where drivers weren't able to react fast enough to try to get around someone, and a little bit of hesitation we could be seeing at the end of the race. But most of these drivers have done 500-mile races before, so some of them are not going to be feeling too much fatigue by the end of this race, but it certainly is going to be mentally draining for a lot of these drivers.
At 20 of Corey Lane, 3rd car in this line, continues to run about a half groove, maybe a full groove higher than that dark gray that we see laid down in 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, continuing to try and put rubber up into that 3rd line. And I'd have to think that he's one of the drivers that's going to be at a huge deficit in terms of tire wear the longer this run goes on, because there's nothing up there.
Yeah, and right now, it's not a bad move. The draft is helping this 20 machine just stay where he's at. Also, it kind of makes me feel a lot more confident about this 20 machine and what type of moves he's going to be able to put at the end of the race. Because if he's staying so close to our leaders while running a groove or 2 higher than what they're running and still staying this close, I'm just curious to see what this 20 machine has once he actually starts running down where the other leaders have been running as well.
Now, this is certainly not a super speedway race. This is open wheel racing at Indianapolis, but a lot of the fundamentals of a super speedway race are put into play in this type of a race with this type of a car. Pit road. You're going to want to make sure that you come down pit road probably with a couple of drivers, so that way you have someone to work with in terms of draft when you come back off of pit road, because we know for certain 2, 3, 4 cars are going to make much better lap times than a car all by their lonesome.
Yeah, at least one other driver would be very helpful to have. I would rather come in by probably either with one other driver or even by yourself, instead of having a bigger pack of machines to be working with, because then if you're running with other drivers, you got to think about possibly battling with them, side-by-side racing a lot, and scrubbing off time. So there are little moments to be watching out for these drivers on who your friends are going to be once you come into the pits. But the pit window is around 28 to about 32 laps that they can run for themselves, and they've been out there for a while. The car's going to be ducking into the pits now, early coming into the pits.
That is Kevin McCarthy in the 44, and this is interesting because I think it was under the first caution he came down pit road and topped off the fuel tank. So I thought that he'd probably be able to go the furthest of anybody here on this long green flag run. But no, apparently going outside of the box in terms of his pit strategy and bringing the 44 down to the attention of his crew. Starting to see some shadows creeping there onto the back straightaway as well. So we'll have to see if changing track conditions will affect the way that the racing is.
Yeah, the track temp is actually pretty cool comparatively what we've seen at other Indy 500s before. We've seen other Indy 500s where the track temp's been around 90 to almost 100 degrees for the track temp. The outside temp being close to around 70 to 80 degrees. Today's race outside temp 65 degrees out there with the track temp being at around 86. So a cooler track than normal, still pretty hot on these tires as you're seeing the driver still slipping and sliding, trying to get through this race.
Nick Groot has the pass put on him again there by Van de Sant. These two have continued to back and forth. You almost have to wonder, are we going to see both of these drivers come down pit road on the same lap, or will there be a little bit of one-upsmanship there on pit road of maybe them coming to pit road on two separate laps?
Yeah, this has been a way for Nick de Groot to try to save fuel in a way. Before, in that first long green flag run, he was leading the charge for the lead for almost that whole entire stint, and he was probably getting a lot closer to having to come into pit road than everyone else. So loving the fact that he has been staying out there as long as he has. Lap traffic looks like that could be a factor for our leaders as they're coming up to a driver in front of them.
That's the 44 of Kevin McCarthy, who had just been down pit road for his first green flag pit stop of the day. His hope is to stay either ahead or at least around the race leader, so when things cycle back, he would be able to get himself back onto the lead lap. But with this battling that's going on here side by side on each one of these straightaways between de Groot and de Sant, they may have to kind of put that battle away for the moment when they catch up to the 44 to get around him.
Yeah, we'll see if the 44 by himself, what type of lap times he's going to be putting down. It looks like he's being a lot slower. As Van de Sant going to be really ducking extremely low. And I think once we get later into this race, we might be seeing some drivers getting pretty close to that backstretch grass. Might be something to watch out for. Also, pit road is about to get very busy. We've been out there for about 30 laps to stint. Here they come. Here soon, this lap or the next. And here comes Van de Sant, our leader, into the pits, and others following suit.
Van de Sant's going to come to pit lane. It looks like Kristen Nelson's going to come to pit lane. So at least two drivers on pit road this lap. And you can see a second group back there as well. There's somebody pitting from that group. Looks like that might be the 86 of Todd Schneider.
It sounds like over the radio, Nick de Groot messaging that he'll be coming in this time by. So looks like the 44 machine will luck out and not be going a lap down. It might be finding himself just a couple of laps, but as I'm saying that, our leaders are catching up to the 44 so quick. The closing rate, incredible, but here comes most of the fuel once again into the pits.
De Groot's going to head for pit road. Max Davies is coming in. I believe that is the 77 of Benjamin Combs coming in this lap as well. So first, third, and seventh as they came off of turn 4, now on pit lane this lap.
And Corey Lane is going to be working that high side still, even by himself. Going to be staying about a groove or two above. Going to be making the pass and putting the 44 machine a lap down. But McCarthy doing his best, but was not able to hold off the 20 machine.
And looks like maybe make that lane is coming in this time. First time in ages. We saw him run the inside line there through 3 and 4. Indeed, he's coming down pit road this lap, and he will be the only one of the lead group to come down here on lap 63.
Yeah, the reason why we're seeing the other drivers able to stay out longer is we did have that caution that allowed drivers to save fuel, and also the drivers were staying in the draft, so allowing them to go at least another lap or two further than some of the drivers that were running up front.
So Craig Forsythe now going to be the race leader. Matt Wagner, Brandon Passalaqua, also AJ Hobson, Todd Merkel, and Nicholas Wunk are the drivers. We're still waiting to come down pit road of this lead pack, and here comes Forsythe.
Yeah, McCarthy's must be just having a whale of a time being passed by some of these leap lap cars, and the next lap that they get past, they come into the pits. So right now, McCarthy is just holding his hand, holding that steering wheel and hoping that he's able to avoid the other drivers. Now it's going to be Matt Wagner, our pole sitter, finally up front and trying to get by the 44 machine.
Passalaqua and Nicholas Wunk were the other two drivers that came down that lap with Craig Forsythe. Still waiting on pole sitter Matt Wagner to make his first green flag stop. We'll see if he's going to maybe come down pit road this time. Looks like we've got about 6 drivers that we're waiting on to make their first green flag stops of the day, as Wagner's going to stay out, lead an extra lap here. There's Mccarthy trying to get himself back on the lead lap the hard way.
Yeah, trying his best at the moment. Also looking back at some of the drivers that were our leaders that are now in the middle of this pack, trying to get up to speed and trying to make passes. Looking like leading the drivers that have already pitted is going to be the 317 Descent, and then you've got Corey Lane. Nick DeGroot is falling back to what should be 3rd place, and the 89 machine now going to be trying to figure out how to get by as those 3 drivers still on top of one another, back in 7th place.
Davies there as well, so this could be 1st through 4th when everything cycles around. We saw a couple of other drivers come down pit lane. AJ Hobson, Todd Merkel, and Joe McDory all were on pit road, and now here comes race leader Matt Wagner. He's going to hit pit road here, coming to the completion of lap 66.
You got to remember, these drivers are going to have to come into the pits. They're going from 215 miles per hour down to 60 miles per hour. That is pit road speed limit, so have to really whoa up. And luckily, once you get down to the limit, you can put on your pit limiter, and it will keep you at your limit. You will not be speeding on pit road.
Now out in front, first time we've mentioned the name tonight of Jim Brooks in the 76. Jim Brooks is 3rd in points coming into this season finale. 3 top 5s, 8 top 10s, and only came into this race 9 points behind Craig Forsythe for 2nd in the standings. So it's been a very consistent year for him. We just haven't really seen him up at the front here at Indy, as now he'll come down pit road.
Yeah, Brooks qualified in 7th place and just been meagering around the middle of the field. Hopefully we'll see Jim Brooks here able to make a charge up to the front, or at least try to go for a top 5, top 10 finish.
Here's the last driver we're waiting on to come to pit road to complete the cycle. 54 of AJ Musselman, who I believe topped off the fuel tank under the last caution. So he could probably go another 2 or 3 laps, I would say, before he has to come down to the attention of his crew. But if we're following that battle for who's going to emerge the race leader, Nick DeGroot, he's been able to make his way around Corey Lane and Alexander Descent. He's now up currently in the 2nd position as, tight on the pit road. I think that's Jimmy Drynan was coming to pit lane. Musselman had to maneuver around him, split the 99 and the pit wall entrance to get to pit lane himself.
Yeah, and that's the dangers of coming into pit road, is some other drivers might have issues that you're going to have to avoid. Musselman doing a great job of trying to avoid there, and that's a scary situation. We're only a little over a quarter of the way through this race, and you're open not to have those types of scares.
And I'll tell you why that's also a scary situation for Musselman, is the fact that you've kind of got both of your eyes looking at 2 different things. And I've had this happen at super speedways where I'm wanting to make sure I don't run somebody over, and while I'm concentrated on them where they are in relation to my car, I then look down at my speedometer and, oh, by the way, I'm speeding. So you're having to do 2 things at the same time coming to pit road, and oh, by the way, you're coming off of turn 4 at over 200 miles per hour.
Yeah, it's a lot of things you got to be thinking about. And some of these drivers have crew chiefs that are going to be helping them out on this race. Others are doing this all on their own. So you have to also think about pressing to make sure everything is unclicked. Make sure that your tires are clicked, to make sure that you're going to be getting tires, fuel, and also clicking your fast repair, so you don't have to worry about using up a fast repair that doesn't need to be utilized.
Well, before this round of green flag pit stops began, we had 13 cars up in this lead pack. Now, after the pit stop cycle are complete, we are down to 9 drivers that are up in this lead group. Alexander Van Descent leading the way, Nick DeGroot in 2nd, Corey Lane 3rd, Max Davies and Craig Forsythe completing the top 5. Then you got Matt Wagner, Brandon Passalaqua, as well as Krista Nelson, Benjamin Combs, AJ Hobson, and Kevin McCarthy. Stop it off there at Combs in 9th place. Those are the drivers that are in this lead group right now, 6 seconds before you get back to the 10th place car of Kevin McCarthy.
Yeah, and this is something that you see once green flag pit stops happen, is everyone getting split up from one another, and you start to see the spacing out of who made a good pit stop and who might have made a mistake that really backed them up and losing positions. And You're already starting to see it here. I mean, some of these drivers were in pit road for almost 10 seconds. Some were only in pit road for 8 seconds. So the difference of how fast you can get into pit road and out of pit road, also another factor for these drivers.
Here is that second group. You've got AJ Hobson, Kevin McCarthy, Nicholas Wunk, and Todd Merkel in this group here. This is from 10th back through 13th. Then you fall back another 7 seconds. That's where you find Charles Johnson, Jim Brooks, Jeff Hysong, Eric Peterson, and AJ Musselman. That is 14th through 18th. 19th place right now is where we find Joe McAdory. He is currently 5 seconds behind that third group. And the last car on the lead lap right now, who in the next, I would say, based off the speed, somewhere in the next maybe 10 laps, could find himself a lap down, and that's Garrett Corley, currently holding down 20th position.
Yeah, Garrett Corley is going to be having himself a little over 10 seconds of our leaders, having a gap between himself. So hoping that with the pace that he's putting down, which is about 0.3 slower than our leaders, maybe he'll be able to stay ahead of them until the next pit stop.
Nick DeGroot and Alexander Van de Sant, it's like the same song, second chorus. From pre-pit stops to post-pit stops, they continued to back and forth that race lead. You almost start to get the feeling, when does Corey Lane, when does Max Davies, when does Craig Forsythe, when did they say, okay, enough's enough, I'm going to get up here, try and see what my car is capable of, because we've seen that all of these drivers up in the top 5, 6, 7, they've got cars fast enough to get to the front, they just haven't positioned themselves yet to do so.
Well, I think the main thing that we're seeing here is due to the fact that they're just waiting and lingering and staying where they're at and utilizing the draft, they're able to extend how far they can stay out in pit road. So they're thinking about the strategy. How far can I stay out on pit road? I mean, stay out instead of coming into the pits, saving fuel, and what type of fuel strategy can I utilize to win this race?
Well, the big thing about it right now is, based on the fact that the field is as spread out as it currently stands, the likelihood of a caution coming out, the percentage just keeps getting lower and lower. So for those drivers that struggled with getting onto or off of pit road and lost the track position they did as a result, it's going to be very difficult for them to be able to combat a mistake like that.
Corey Lane dumps it, it looks like, for that 20 machine, as he just completely lost it out of 2.
Was running in third position at the time, now all the way back to 9th, and has lost the lead group. Might possibly get reeled in by that second pack of race cars. Tough break there for Corey Lane. Let's take the opportunity to go back, see what happened to him.
Coming out of 1, it looks like he bounces off of the wall and then has to really back off, loses time, and now he's going to be out of the draft and continuing to drop back.
And you talked about the dangers of running up on that outer line. This is one of those tracks where when you run that outside line, that outside wall with the little short straights between 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, it just kind of comes out and surprises you when you come off of the corner. And that might have been the case of what happened with the 20 car right there.
Yeah, just carrying a little bit too much speed, bounces off the wall and had to back off, and with all that speed being lost, it's like I talked about, if you try to let off at all, you're going to be losing a lot of positions. And Corey Lane went from being within basically 0.2 of our leader to now being back almost 5.5 seconds back from our leader, going back to 9th place.
Just talked about pit road mistakes costing you possibly here, with the likelihood of a caution kind of getting lower and lower as we get closer to the end of this race. Well, incidents on the racetrack that don't necessarily bring out a yellow. Mistakes like that also can fit into that category, as DeSant again back to the point. Group there in second place. Really, if we're looking for a good battle that's going on, you want to go back to that second pack with AJ Hobson, Kevin McCarthy, Nicholas Wunk, and Todd Merkel, because these guys back here, they're not really giving a care. They know that they've lost the lead pack, so they're just having some fun back here trying to figure out who's going to lead the second group.
Yeah, it's a long race, so some drivers, I mean, when you're further back, are thinking about, hey, how can we entertain ourselves while racing back here, making sure we don't wreck ourselves, but at least entertaining ourselves. So racing hard are these drivers back here. And also you got to be thinking about they're all on very different tire strategies. I mean, McCarthy is a driver that came in the first of all the drivers, and they'll be thinking about coming to the pits here probably in the next about 8 to 9 laps, while the rest of the drivers he's around, they won't be pitting for at least another 10 to maybe 15 laps. So it's crazy to look at the differences that they are going at.
Looking back from the 20 of Corey Lane, you can just barely see those specks off there in the distance of turn 4. That is that second group that we were looking at with Hobson, McCarthy, Wunk, and Merkel. They are slowly starting to reel him in. There was another machine right there just up ahead of Corey Lane. I think that is the lap machine of Jeffrey Duncan, who just actually got around him. I thought that maybe that the 20 would be able to kind of latch onto him and the two of them be able to work together in either keeping Corey Lane ahead of that second group or maybe getting up there close to that first group, but I'm not really sure 2 cars would be able to cut into the gap that he has to make up. But looks like that 32 machine, who is 4 laps down, is a little bit faster than the 20 machine.
Yeah, and especially since Corey Lane got into the wall, that's going to be hurting his aerodynamics for even being in the draft, as well as just running well. He was running that outside groove for so long that at this point, I think that 20 machine just hoping to come in, use a little as a fast repair, and just waiting for the next time to come into the pits, and maybe just praying for a caution for another chance to move up.
All right, so I'm going to throw out a name that maybe people will remember from previous broadcasts that we did, but, you know, we when we did IndyCar races, a lot of times we kind of adopted what we called the John Poole III strategy. Drivers that would run up in the lead pack, but run at the tail end to be able to save fuel. And you talked about the fact of drivers here, you know, trying to maybe put themselves off sequence to stretch it a little bit further. Who's some of these guys that you're looking at here at the tail end of the field to maybe be someone pulling off that JP3 strategy?
I mean, I'm looking at Matt Wagner. He was our pole sitter. We know he's got the speed, but he's just been staying in the middle of the pack. This is exactly where you want to be, saving the most fuel by just waiting, and he can back off when he needs to and still be running well as I think that the 77 of Cobbs is another driver at the end of the line, just waiting and patiently waiting until he has to come into the pits. These drivers all are being able to really stay out as long as possible, and Wagner was the driver that would stay out probably the longest of all the drivers in this front pack. So that 16 machine, the driver I've got my eye on, if we do have this turn into a fuel strategy run, he could be the one that has set himself up for the win.
As mentioned, folks, the championship's already decided, but we would be remiss to not continue to shout out drivers that have had such consistent years. And how about the guy that's currently holding down the 6th position? That is Brandon Passalaqua. Came into this season only running 8 of the events this year, 5 top 5s, 6 top 10s, and he is 5th in the standings as a result. So no doubt about it, when he takes to the track, he puts together some really good finishes.
Yeah, and Brandon right now, I mean, he was a driver that was running around 13th place before we started seeing green flag pit stops. So his 23 machine slowly has been making that march forward and has just stalled out the moment. I think all the drivers have understood, hey, let's wait and stay in line, as Pasquale actually gets a little bit out of shape there and might be under fire of this position.
Kristen Nelson getting a run on him going into turn 3. Duck to the inside, now tucks back in line, ran a little wide there out of the exit of turn 3, so Passalaqua will hold on to the 6th spot. Is back up at the front, though. It continues to be the back and forth between Desant and DeGroot, and after the exit of Corey Lane from the 3rd position, Max Davies has kind of just kept the gap anywhere from 2 to 3 car lengths between himself and the top 2. Hasn't really forced the issue to get up there and mix it up with these guys.
No, and that's kind of what Max Davies has been doing for the past about 30 laps or so. It's just been waiting and not trying to put any pressure anywhere. And it's been a good strategy. I mean, it's keeping Davies in position to make a strike at any moment, but also understanding, hey, this is going to be a long race. We still got to be patient and wait our time. Looking at the drivers that most likely are going to have to pit first, it looks like that 13 machine of Nelson going to be the first car of our front pack that are going to have to be thinking about pitting, but also you got to be thinking of drivers that are in the middle of the pack. It's going to be Kevin McCarthy, first driver that pitted within the next 3 laps or so, actually coming in now for that 44 machine.
So McCarthy is going to pit from what could have been anywhere from 10th to 14th place. There's another car ahead of him, the 32 of Jeffrey Duncan, the lap down machine. He's on pit road this lap. Another thing about the aspect of pit road we didn't talk about, you can see that there is a difference in coloration between pit road itself and the pit stalls. That's because pit road, the lanes coming to and off of pit lane, that is asphalt. It's concrete, the pit stalls. And just based on the fact that those tires are going to be awfully hot and slick when you come to your pit lane. You've got to make sure when you get into your pit stall that you don't slide those tires and overshoot your pit stall.
Yeah, and also you got to make sure, I mean, with the change of really those different asphalt that they're going to be dealing with, coming to the pits is going to be Corley that's going to be coming in. But I've seen a lot of drivers sliding through their pit boxes in other leagues. These guys have been doing a great job in the Dark Horse IndyCar Series to not be sliding their tires too much, coming into the pits and missing their pit box, and really getting to their spot and getting back out on track.
So now with the 44 coming down pit road, we're going to start to see other drivers duck onto pit lane. I believe that when the 44 came to pit road last time, it was about 3 or 4 laps before we saw a majority of our drivers hit pit road for what was then the first round of green flag pit stops. So we'll see who's going to be the first one of our front runners here that's going to make that turn onto pit road. And I think based off the numbers we've got right now, it would be possibly Desant and Krista Nelson that would be the beginning drivers to start that second round of green flag pit stops for our race leaders.
Yeah, that's looking like they're going to be pitting here around lap 92 to possibly 97 is the window we're going to be seeing for a lot of these drivers. So expecting them to try to get things situated. But it looks like there might have been a wreck on the backstretch. The 33 machine extremely slow and missing a wheel, it looks like, as the backstretch was scattered with cars.
There you see a shower of sparks coming out from underneath the 33 of Nicholas Wunk. He does bring it down onto the access road heading into the inside of turn 3. So off the racing surface, we remain green for the moment. We're going to definitely go back and see what happened to him. We got a couple of drivers that are now coming to pit road. Oh no, we got another wreck. Another driver up into the wall. That is Jim Brooks. It almost looked like the right front may have gone down on the 76 because that thing just was riding the outside wall.
It looks like coming out of turn number 1, he made a little bit of contact with the car in front of him, and away he goes in that 76 machine, almost the same exact spot that we saw Wong have his issues.
Caution out for the 4th time. A rather bizarre one. As you mentioned, 2 cars up into the wall in the exact same area. We're going to go back and see what happened to both of them. We'll start with the 33 of Nicholas Wunk, because I believe his was the first incident, but both incidents, the right front taking a pounding.
Yeah, and the other one was actually going to be seeing Brooke getting into the 14 of Johnson. That's what launched that driver up into the wall.
There's Nicholas Wunk, his incident there going into turn 1 and coming off of turn 2, able to get it down onto the apron on the back straightaway. So the caution did not come out for that. We'll now jump up and see what happened with the 76 of Jim Brooks, and a tough break there, as we were just talking about him not too long ago. 3rd in the points coming into this race, trying to finish out the season up there on the podium, and you're about to see the contact he had between himself and the 14 of Charles Robinson, or make that Charles Johnson. I don't know why I keep saying Robinson for the last name. My apologies.
You know, he would just get stuck on those names sometimes, and it's hard to fade them away, as drivers are also coming to the pits while we're looking at this replay.
You can see as well with the impact that was made of the 76 with the iRacing model, the tether, keeping the race wheel still connected to the car rather than having the wheel go flying off somewhere. We've seen that quite a bit with the shots these drivers have taken into either the inside or outside walls respectively, as pit road is indeed open. So let's keep an eye and see who's going to win the battle off pit road, and looks like it will be the 317 of Alexander Desant.
Yeah, and also looks like Max Davies was able to come in and might have taken a little bit less. I don't know. I think he might have just went with fuel only possibly on this pit stop. I'm going to go back and rewatch his pit stop, because Max Davies' stop was almost a full second faster than what the rest of the field was doing. He did take tires. The question is, how much fuel did this 51 machine really take? Because that was a very quick stop for himself.
It's interesting, too, because, we've been watching Nick DeGroot out in front for a good portion of this race, battling with Alexander Desant, and you kind of wonder, where is the place for drivers to capitalize on this 89 to take away a 6th win from him to cap off a championship season? Last 2 times these drivers have come to pit road under caution, DeGroot has come out -1. in terms of positioning. So maybe pit road is the place to take advantage.
A driver that's going to be losing a lot of time on pit road, that's going to be AJ Musselman, that came sliding through his box, actually tapped the inside wall, and having issues getting that 54 machine in line and back going. And that is a major issue for himself that is going to be putting him back in 15th position.
We'll keep him on the lead lap, however. I believe that the recipient of the free pass under this caution is actually going to be the 99 of Jimmy Drynan. So that will leave us with 18 cars on the lead lap. We also have some drivers that are up here between race leader Descent and the pace car. Might be possibly taking the wave around here. We'll wait and see if there are wave arounds. I did not see anything in drivers meeting about wave arounds, so maybe these are drivers that are actually going to be starting up in front of the race leader, because we also found out lap machines and lead lap machines, where they're running at the time of the lights going out top the pace car, that's where they're going to be when we go back green flag racing. As Nicholas Wunk still sits on pit road, more damage getting repaired on his machine. Looks like AJ Musselman actually has come back down pit lane again in the 54, so he'll be another lap or so better than everybody else if he tops off the fuel tank. Right now, the way they line up for this restart, it'll be Alexander Van Descent, the leader, Max Davies in second, Nick DeGroot is third, Matt Wagner in fourth, Craig Forsythe in fifth, Brandon Passalaqua in sixth, Krista Nelson seventh, Benjamin Combs in eighth, AJ Hobson in ninth, and Todd Merkel currently completes the top 10. Eric Peterson 11th, Corey Lane in 12th, Jeff Heisung 13th, Joe McAdory in 14th, 15th, Charles Johnson, Kevin McCarthy in 16th, 17th will be AJ Musselman, and then the last car on the lead lap will be the 99 of Jimmy Drynan. 2 laps down in 19th is Jim Brooks. 2 laps down in 20th will be Garrett Corley. -3 in 21st will be Nicholas Wunk, who still sits on pit road. Todd Schneider is 4 laps down, currently 22nd. And 23rd, the last car running, 5 laps down, is Jeffrey Duncan. Just joined us, only one driver out of the race as we're closing on the halfway point. That was David Leclaire. He will finish out the season finale in the 24th position. Lights back on the pace car here, Sam. So I guess we're going around again, maybe having to get some scoring updated here possibly for who's going to be where on this restart.
Yeah, there was a little bit of confusion that was being made between the drivers, trying to figure out where drivers going to be placed on track. So going to be giving some drivers lined up and ready to go as an extra lap was added.
Looks like the 2 cars that are going around, taking the wave around there, Jimmy Drynan in the 99 and Gary Corley in the 7. So this will put Jimmy Drynan back on the lead lap. This will put Gary Corley at -2. So he will be in a battle with Jim Brooks for the lucky dog under the next caution, even though the 2 of them are currently 2 laps down to the race leader. So 4 cautions up to this point. We're going to be 8 laps away from halfway. We still have quite a number of pit stops on the horizon, whether they be under green or whether they be under caution. So do we start to see the aggressiveness throughout the top 10 now start to ramp up, rather than just the kind of 1v1 battles we've seen between the 2 race leaders?
No, I'm still expecting it to be a 1v1 battle up front. I think for really these restarts is the time to make most of these passes in the first about 4 laps. And then we'll get back to where we were seeing of a lot of drivers staying single file and racing where they were at. And it's more so of once we get to 50 laps to go, I think that's when we're going to be seeing the aggression level of drivers that are probably running back around 15th. They're still on the lead lap. If you've got a car that does not have damage, might be thinking about making that push up front and trying to make their chances to be where they are. I think a driver we got to keep our eye out on, though, has got to be that 20 of Corey Lane. He was in 3rd for most of that time until he got into the wall. He's now going to be back in 12th position.
How much rubber did he put up possibly in that 2nd and a half, maybe 3rd groove to try and work his way back up through the field? We'll see if he migrates back up there to the top side or if he will utilize the inside line to work his way back up. As the green flag back in the air, Alexander Descent drives it way down to the wall and now will lead them into turn 1, about 4 car lengths back to Max Davies, another car length back to Nick DeGroot, and we'll see what kind of a run this 51's going to have down the back.
Yeah, Max Davies is going to have a huge run. Then you also got to think Nick DeGroot's going to be coming with a head of steam as well. as they're going to be coming hard charging, and it's going to be Max Davies to the inside, trying to make a pass for the lead. The 51 machine, this is where he wants to be staying.
First time today that the STP colors of Max Davies are going to be leading this Indy 500. Will he get to lead the lap is the question. He's got about half a car length coming here to the start-finish line. I think Desant wanted to make a move to the inside. That was the line the 51 took, and it will be Desant leading that lap on the top side.
Yeah, they've been playing nice. They've been giving each other the inside the last about 50 laps or so. And that time around, it was going to be Max Davies saying, hey, I'm going to be holding on and battling for this lead, make it a little bit more difficult. But here comes Nick DeGroot on the outside.
Well, Desant there out of turn 2, get a little bit loose coming off the corner. I think his left sides might have gone just a little too low than he wanted them to. That white line there is kind of a guideline for these drivers. Down below that, it's almost kind of like a rumble strip texture for these guys. It will upset the race car if you get down that area, and I think that might have been what Desant hit that last time around.
Almost 3-5 wide for the lead is now, I think, Max Davies. After that block that he put on Desant, Desant is understanding, hey, I'm not going to let you play nice. Maybe me and DeGroot will, because we've been playing the nice game the last couple of laps.
And there's a battle brewing as well. Well, there was a battle between Forsythe and Nelson for the 5th position. Nelson was taking a look there, now tucks back in line. Field has gotten broken up a little bit again here. We've got about 6 cars up in this lead group. Now make it 7 as Benjamin Combs has latched onto the draft of Nelson's number 13. Then there's about maybe a half a second before you get back to Brandon Passalaqua, AJ Hobson, and others.
Yeah, Passalaqua, not really, he's right on the edge of having the draft, but it's looking like he's struggling to be holding on the inside and losing time in that fashion as the drivers are still side by side for second place. Nick DeGroot getting past here possibly from Davies, but Davies has to back out of it through 2.
Highlight another driver who's had a great year here in the Dark Horse IndyCar Series, and we're looking at 9th place AJ Hobson. Right now, Hobson coming into this race 4th in the point standings, 4 top 5, 6 top 10s, and a trip to victory lane in the season opener at Auto Club Speedway.
Yeah, Hobson trying to rebound after the way that this race started for himself, trying to just find himself back in the top 5 if possible. But at the moment, AJ Hobson back in 9th, like you said, and around those cars that are trying to figure out how they want to really march their way forward.
Ooh, that 13 got low, really low, got up into Craig Forsythe. There's another car down there on the apron. I think that's Benjamin Combs. He was, I think, turning left in reaction to the contact ahead of him. He keeps it straight as he was down on the apron through 1 and 2, dropping now outside of the top 10.
I think Combs went with a safe, better go safe than sorry route, and it's not a bad call for himself. Now it's going to be back at 13th.
I thought there was a spin up ahead. That's actually, I think, the 36 of Eric Peterson that's blinking in and out. I thought for a moment we had a wreck there, but boy, that was a near moment as we got a couple of cars that are actually on pit lane. I think that was the 99 of Jimmy Drynan coming back down pit road, which surprises me because when he went around to get the lucky dog, he came down pit lane, took on 4 fresh tires and 2 cans of fuel, and then came back out. I thought that more than likely he'd be still back on sequence with everybody else, so this has to be an unscheduled stop for the 99.
Yeah, it looked like he's coming in trying to get repairs done, as it looked like he's going to be back on the track as Drynan going to be going down 2 laps down for himself, and issues to continue to woe up. And looking at which driver was blinking and what that smoke was, it looks like it's Jeff Hysong that's going to be that driver in the 18 car in 12th place that's been blinking.
We're going to jump back here and take a look at a replay of what happened there with the 77. Now watch up ahead of him. Kristen Nelson's going to get on the apron, slides up there into Forsythe. Oh, actually, you know, I think that Forsythe may have gotten some damage out of that. Now, there was a little bit of a glitch on our end where it looked like the tire was, pushed into the suspension on that 129. Then it settled itself back out, but I think that would be an indication that somehow Craig Forsythe did get a little bit of damage from that.
Yeah, sometimes there's, like you said, a little bit of a glitch that happens on our side that allows us to see possibly what could have happened at the worst possible stage, but sometimes the tires go back to where they were at and allows the drivers to continue to march on forward. Speaking of a driver that's marching on forward, Corey Lane up to 9th place after starting 12th on that restart. Looks like he's going to be trying to make a pass here, possibly on AJ Hobson.
Corey Lane, before his issue of getting up into the wall, was running 3rd, so he's still got quite a road to get himself back up there. running on that outside line again, and that looks almost even higher than where he was previously when he was up in the podium.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit higher, but it's still working. He's making the pass on the outside working. This is probably the pass that he's going to have to make if he's up front, because Nick DeGroot, as well as Desant, they're going to be trying their best to stay on the inside, and they're going to have to force the driver that's on the outside to make a pass. And really, if anything, Corey Lane is helping the rest of the field possibly show that outside groove does have some speed.
Back up at the front, it's still DeGroot and Desant still going back and forth. And you gotta wonder too, with Corey Lane up there in that second and third groove, you gotta wonder if some of these other drivers are noticing that, if anybody else is gonna start migrating up to that outer groove.
I don't think anyone's really going to be trying unless they are forced to try to make that outside groove work. I think at the moment they're all feeling comfortable trying to go to the inside, especially between DeGroot and Desant. They're just allowing one another to make these passes and kind of playing nice for now. Until, like I said, those final 50 laps, that's when things are going to switch up and you're not really going to be playing nice anymore. And you saw Max Davies, he tried to use the block. His caution to the back.
Caution is out. It looks like it may be the 7 of Garrett Corley, who is already on pit road, so we didn't get to see the after effects of his wreck or where it was. The caution is indeed out just past the halfway point.
Corley was trying the high groove where Lane was, and oh goodness, there was another car involved in that incident. And we're going to take a look and see who that other driver was. It was a blue and white machine.
McCarthy, perhaps, in the 44?
Yeah, that was McCarthy.
McCarthy on the inside line. Boy, wow. It's almost like McCarthy's car didn't even turn off of turn 1.
Well, the back tire was what was contact, and it looks like the tire actually broke for a second after the contact. And then it mended itself back up to allow the 44 to continue driving.
Now, I didn't see any smoke, but when we were observing these drivers in practice, I saw where if some of these guys took the corner just a tad too fast, those front tires would almost start smoking, and the car wouldn't turn into the corner. Was that the case there for the 44?
I think he might have been coming up a little bit sooner, carrying too much speed, possibly. But Corley was also just trying that extreme high line that I don't think McCarthy was expecting, and both drivers looking for the same real estate, and it just did not work out for either of them.
All right, 13 laps into this run, so almost halfway through what would be a full stint. Let's see if our leaders are going to come down pit road this time. Ooh, some of them thinking about it. Do we have any fakers? Nope, they're all basically coming in.
Yeah, I mean, there was the thought of possibly staying out there. I mean, if you're trying to do the math of, okay, if I pit now, is that going to be invitations to help me in any way, or is it going to be hurting me? And the rest of the field understanding, hey, let's just stay out. The one driver that did stay out, that is going to be up front, AJ Musselman, going to be the driver that is going to be staying out this time and will become our leader once we go green.
The question is, for AJ Musselman, does he stay out and lead us to the green, or does he stay out and try and have himself again off pit sequence with everybody else? This is going to be, when he comes around this next time, the first lap, I believe, that he has led in this race. I can't remember if he led a lap when we had that cycle of green flag pit stops or not. I don't think he did, so it will, I believe, officially be the first time that he will lead a lap in this race, as AJ Musselman right now scored behind the pace car. Desant won the battle off pit road, so he lines up second, DeGroot third, Max Davies fourth, and Matt Wagner in fifth. We're past the halfway point here in the Indianapolis 500, the season finale for Season 2 of the Dark Horse IndyCar Series. We're going to be back here for the restart momentarily, as we're going to go to another commercial break. You won't miss a thing. We are going to remain FRN side by side.
ETE Reman is the world's best remanufacturer of transmissions for import and domestic cars and trucks. Based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, our customers are repair shops, auto parts stores, dealerships, and distributors. And with 6 nationwide warehouses, we're where and when you need us. So when you're looking for a transmission that is like new, only better, instill confidence and install ETE Reman.
We're based out of West Monroe, Louisiana. We do custom T-shirts, racing. We'll do any shirt. We'll do schools, churches, fundraisers. We do a ton of event shirts, as you can see on our board here, all around our banner. Personalized. I mean, we'll do anything. It doesn't matter to us. We got the custom rugs. We use all the top quality shirts, inks and everything. Hoodies, hats. We do embroidered hats, embroidered shirts. Just you can call us for anything. We do offer the bag and fold to where you can receive them and they're already labeled and tagged and bagged, ready to give out to your customer and stuff. So you just call us and just tell us, hey, this is what we're looking at doing, and if we're going to put the car on there, it is 125 quantity minimum. If it's without the car, it's 60 quantity minimum. That's strictly on the racing stuff. If it's a business or something, if you race on Texas shirts, it's a little bit differently. You can call us. It just depends on your quantity and ink color. Everything is hand drawn. I mean, everything. We don't Photoshop anything onto a shirt or anything like that. Everything that we go through, everything is drawn.
Green flag set to come back out here on lap 106 of 200. 95 laps officially left to be run as we are working our fifth caution of the day. AJ Musselman did indeed decide to stay out. He'll be the leader coming back here to the start-finish line over Alexander Van de Sant, Nick DeGroot, Max Davies, and Matt Wagner. So Musselman, for the first time today, is going to be leading us back to a green flag.
I'm watching back the middle of the field, got completely accordion effect as they're taking off up front.
That's back around the 13th, 14th position where all that wadding up is going on. As up at the front, battle possibly for third. Nope, it's going to be for the lead. DeSant with a huge run out of turn 2. He's all over the back bumper of Musselman down the back straightaway.
Yeah, Musselman really is doing a great job right now. I think he might have gotten a big enough lead as here comes Nick DeGroot now into the inside. 2 for 1 through this corner.
This is interesting because, for the most part, we've only seen drivers at the most 5 laps off sequence with each other. We're now going to get an idea with this 54 of Musselman what a car on 15-lap-old tires can do against drivers on fresh tires.
Also, DeSant's just getting picked off by using Musselman as a pick for the rest of these drivers. They're just keeping him on the outside and able to make the pass there on the 317 as there goes Max Davies. Is now gray yellow in the back as they're wrecking hard in the back. It's going to be the 44 again, collecting more drivers involved.
Kevin McCarthy, Jimmy Drynan, Todd Schneider, I believe, were the drivers collected up in this one, and it has been a tough couple of laps here for that 44 of Kevin McCarthy. He was involved in the last caution. He's involved in this one. And that 44 machine sits on pit road, smoke rising from the front of that machine.
The spot where you're talking about where McCarthy looked like he just couldn't turn, it's the same exact position that he wrecked last time on the previous caution. This time around, bringing out another driver with him of the 99 machine.
Here it was going into turn 1. This time he entered in a little bit higher than he did the previous time, bounces off the wall, and I think... Gonna have to go back and look. I think he may have come down into the right side of, was that the 77 of Benjamin Combs?
He came down, but Combs was able to react fast enough to avoid the 44 there and able to not take any damage. That was a very scary situation for Combs, but able to get by.
There's another angle of it. Yeah, the last time that McCarthy went up into the wall in that corner, or at least looked like he was going to, he was down right on the white line. That time he was about maybe 3-4 feet off the white line, and still the car just did not want to turn. It looks like it was just a 2-car incident with Jimmy Drynan also involved. Todd Schneider backed it way down to make sure he was able to make it through that incident, so he did not get a piece of it. 2-car incident over there in turns 1 and 2, 6th caution of the day.
Yeah, really looking at the entry of that corner, it looked like possibly McCarthy thought Combs was going to be ducking it in, and so Combs was giving that area to make that pass, but deciding otherwise. And looks like Nick DeGroot is coming into the pits here. So a little bit of strategy, and the rest of the field is not following suit. So Nick DeGroot going to be getting some tires and some fuel. And now it's going to be the drivers from 12th on back that will follow suit. But that is an interesting call by our leader coming in.
What does he know that we don't know?
I mean, he's won so many races this season. I'm not surprised if he's going to be throwing in something different, especially with how long this race is. Why not come in, top off your fuel, be out there a little bit longer than everyone else, and just try to be a little bit off sequence and a possible chance to win this thing.
Now, the big question for Nick DeGroot, though, is he has spent most of this race up at least in the top 3. He's been out in front for a good portion of this race as well, even though there's been quite of an exchange between himself, Max Davies, Van de Sant for most of the at least since lap 30 up to this point. Now he's going to find himself back in traffic. We kind of consider that sometimes the eye of the storm, so he's going to have to probably tiptoe his way back to the front here.
Yeah, he's going to be back around 13th place. He's going to have to work around some drivers that maybe haven't been around some of the leaders just yet. So excited to see how these drivers are going to be reacting through the field. And, you know, talking about drivers throughout the field, that driver in 9th place, haven't talked about him much. It's going to be Todd Merkel, that we haven't talked about this 81 machine at all, but in the top 10.
Yeah, great run right there for Todd Merkel. Todd coming into this season currently situated, I believe, in the... oh, nope, looking at a different Todd. Merkel actually might be making his second start. He is. This is only his second start of the season. I'll look back and try and figure out where he made his series debut. So doing very well here for only his second time in the league. Behind him, you've got Eric Patterson there in the 36 as well. We saw Eric run into some early issues at the beginning of this race. He was caught up in that lap 1 incident, and now he's up here inside of the top 10.
Yeah, Peterson, is going to be qualified back in 6th place, has fallen all the way back to the back of the field, and now up to 10th at the moment. So this 36 machine, it's been an all race trying to come back and claw back from that lap 1 incident that you talked about. He's been doing a pretty good job for that 36 machine up to 10th.
We saw right there when the race leaders were coming down the front straightaway, the entire front stretch is almost engulfed with smoke. That is coming from the 44 of Kevin McCarthy, who still sits on pit road. How much of a visibility problem do you think that's going to be for these drivers when we go back green?
It's going to be a slight visibility problem for some drivers when you get close to the inside wall and you're trying to make moves there, but it shouldn't be too much for some of these guys. Some of the drivers like to run with smoke. Others actually turn that feature off to help themselves. And, overall, I think everyone is going to be feeling pretty comfortable for themselves on the virtual side of things. Looks like we do have some drivers that have officially parked it for the day, though. And so it looks like Corley is done, as well as Duncan. They've officially parked it for the day, and we're looking to see if the 99 machine is done. He did leave the server and has just connected back. We'll see if he can get himself back in that machine.
Driver that got the lucky dog under this caution. Third in the points, Jim Brooks. He will be 17th when we go back green. Currently, we've got 18 cars running, 17 of them on the lead lap. As you said, we're still waiting for the status on the 99 of Jimmy Drynan, as it will be AJ Musselman, the leader again, after DeGroot came to pit road under this caution. Max Davies lines up second. Alexander Desant, Matt Wagner, and Craig Forsythe going to be the top 5, followed by Kristen Nelson, Corey Lane, AJ Hobson, Todd Merkel, and Eric Peterson, the top 10. Got it right that time, as it's going to be Musselman bringing us back down for the green flag. 90 laps to go here at Indianapolis.
AJ Musselman going to be coming with that steam, and now we're going to be seeing Max Davies with the chance to make a pass. How will we see Desant make the moves here? Is that 317 machine has been kind of he was stuck behind Musselman on that last restart. This time around, he's actually fallen pretty far back. He has fallen back to almost a half a second back from our front two, and now he's under fire from Matt Wagner.
And he's quite a ways back there on our camera down the back straightaway, but keep an eye out for that bright yellow number 89 of Nick DeGroot. Right now back in the 13th position, trying to work his way back up to the front as Davies gets around the older tires of AJ Musselman. He's going to go to the point. He's still looking for his first lap lead of the day. He almost led a lap moments ago, but Van de Sant said, no. It will now officially be the first lap led by the 51 at Indy.
And here comes Desant. As you said his name, he's finally caught back up, found that draft, and also has gotten up to speed. The question is, which lane will he follow? As he's hugging very low. Desant, he went so low, I think he might have grazed the grass, almost shot him up to the wall, but able to hold on in third place and side by side for the lead.
the second time we've seen him do that in the last 20 laps, talking about Descent down there on the apron of turn 1, pushes him up off of turn 2. Whoa! Musselman, I was shocked that he was clear as he was trying to duck down, I think, to the inside of Max Davies for a crossover move, and almost may have gotten the nose to the back bumper of that 51. Now he jumps to the top side on the front stretch.
Yeah, Musselman still holding strong, even with the much older tires that he has comparatively to the rest of the field. He's on 22-lap-old tires compared to everyone else that's only on 9-lap-old tires.
I got a question for you here. You know, we were trying to figure out the strategy of Nick DeGroot. Well, with the fact we're seeing Musselman put up such a fight right now with those older tires, is DeGroot possibly thinking with him coming to pit road under this last caution, if we were getting a late race yellow, he'd have the opportunity to stay out, keep the track position over everybody else, and still have the tire grip to hold them off?
There's a possibility of that, but right now, I mean, Nick DeGroot battling side-by-side for 9th place is he is still trying to make that move as we're still side-by-side up here for 2nd and 5th place. As it's going to be Wagner trying to watch out for the drivers behind him as you've got yourself Forsythe as well as Nelson still pounding at each other. And you also can now put in AJ Hobson has joined into the fray.
By riding on board here with Nick DeGroot as he now ducks to the inside of Corey Lane. He had a wall in front of him before when Eric Patterson was taking the 8th position from the 20. Woo! 20 car got close to the wall there. Going through the center of 3 and 4 as they come off the final corner, but back up at the front. Slicing and dicing is back with our top 7. Davies to the inside. Musselman on the top. Descent jumps from the bottom to the top. Now he's back to the bottom in turn 1.
Yeah, right now, I mean, Max Davies has a car that really looks like it's struggling to get by his 54 machine. It's just not able to get by him at all. And that's what we're starting to see with these drivers continuing to just battle back and forth. And this was what we were seeing between Descent and DeGroot, but this time around, I mean, you would think Davies with the much fresher tires, he would have already been ahead of the 54, even with the draft.
You know, we're seeing a lot more in these last 25 to 30 laps of drivers down the inside really pushing up off the corner. One thing I'm wondering that might be playing into that, have the track conditions changed any since the drop of the green?
And we talked about how the track conditions on the track temp was 86 degrees back around 50 laps into this race. They're still at 86 degrees, so not much has changed track temp wise for these drivers. It's been about the same. It's more of the aggression level for these drivers. We're past the halfway marker. If you want to be up front, now is your time to do it. Nick DeGroot already battling side by side for 8th place as everyone is in line. And then really what was the top 7 pulling away? They've been caught up by that second pack.
And the thing that is on the side of Nick DeGroot right now is time. 85 laps to go, 84 as they hit the line, so still a long ways for Nick DeGroot to slowly and methodically work his way back up here to the front of the field. Car on the wall. That was, I think, the 13 of Kristen Nelson. Pancaked it pretty good there through the center of 1 and 2.
And Nelson going to be in 5th place, but still holding strong. Might be seeing some drivers trying to duck it in as Nelson did pancake the wall, but still able to carry the momentum. Going to get blocked here by Wagner, and now we're starting to see side-by-side action throughout the whole entire field. As, more contact! That's into the wall. Goes all those drivers, and, that was not good.
That was Craig Forsythe that Kristen Nelson got into. We got another car down the apron coming off of turn 4. Everyone scatters, everyone avoids. We remain green. But that 131 of Forsythe, he got up into the wall pretty good there, courtesy of the 13. And now the 13, that's the 36 has a problem way up on the top side there of turn 1. 3 wide, all trying to get around. That is Eric Peterson having an issue dropping back.
It looks like the tires are whenever they make contact, the tire breaks and then it molds back into the car. So then they're able to control it once again. But that little time where the tires are broken, they have zero control of their cars. And that's why we're going to see Peterson dropping back like a rock. Also, we saw Corey Lane dropping back with those issues. But Forsythe able to regroup and now trying to make a charge back up to the front.
Well, you know why Eric Peterson's dropping back. I don't know if you can see it, but I think he's actually coming to pit road. The left front wing was gone off the nose of his number 36. So that was all the downforce he was losing. That's why he was so slow, especially in the corners.
And now everyone trying to get regrouped and ready up front. I mean, that was a huge scattering that should have brought out a yellow, but great recovery from everyone that was racing around those drivers that had their issues with the 13 as well as Forsythe. and lane, and it's crazy to see all those drivers and the way they were able to avoid one another.
Kristen Nelson and Eric Patterson both came down pit lane. There you saw, I believe that's the 36 leaving pit road. Nelson left pit road about 10 seconds ago. And after everything we just saw, look who's back up here in the 4th position. Nick DeGroot just completed the pass for 4th place on Charles Johnson. I wonder how much lifting that 89 did with all the chaos ahead of him, because he worked his way up from 10th up into the top 5 awfully quickly.
Due to the fact that he's still with this front group, he never lifted at all. I mean, I gotta say, though, Johnson's doing a great job battling back between himself and DeGroot. And then you look back, Musselman, I think those tires have finally hit their mark, because he's about to have to come in soon here, probably in the next 3 to 4 laps.
Charles Johnson, we saw him spinning down to the inside of turn 1 back during the first half of this race. A great comeback for him up to 4th, and you've got some lap machines now intermingled with this lead group. I believe you've got the 13 of Kristen Nelson right there. That is the car that Nick DeGroot just passed. She is currently a lap down. You've also got Eric Peterson somewhere in this pack. I'm trying to see if I can find him.
Behind Musselman.
So I believe
That's
that, yeah, so you got, 2, maybe 3 lap down machines in this lead group.
Yeah, they're trying to figure out how to hold on in this group, but this is it's going to be interesting how they're mingling through, as right now Davies trying to hold on. Is now they're 2x2 up front. Nick DeGroot 3rd place and making a charge up to 2nd.
Right up in front of Max Davies goes Nick DeGroot. Not sure you could have fit a sheet of paper between his back bumper and the front wing of the 51, but he made it work. And all the time he did that, he helped push Charles Johnson, the 14, out to the race lead.
Literally was pushing him. I don't think you usually see bump drafting, a phrase used at the Indy 500, but I think you might have been able to use it there through corner number 1. A great shove there from Nick DeGroot to get Charles Johnson up to the lead, and now both these drivers are trying to pull away from the rest of the field.
And now DeGroot ducks down to the inside, down the front straightaway, looking for the top position. Behind them, you've got about 5-6 cars all single file. Saw someone peeking out of line back there, but I don't know if that was a lap machine or not. And we've actually got a battle within a battle going on right now also, because if you look back here at the 13 of Kristen Nelson, then a couple cars back further, there is Eric Peterson. Then you drop back way back here. That's where you find the 4 of Joe McAdory. So right now it is Kristen Nelson and Eric Peterson. The two of them are battling for the lucky dog should we get a caution to come out here.
Yeah, and right now they're trying their best to just stay in front of one another, hoping that the caution comes out soon, in hopes that they're not the ones involved. As long as if the caution comes out and they're not involved, believe that Nelson would be the driver given the lucky dog at the moment. And as we continue to watch and see, Nick DeGroot gets the lead and kind of went back to that first green flag run strategy, stay low and not give anyone space.
It's the lead, and we're probably going to start to see a couple of drivers ducking onto pit road momentarily. I think that AJ Musselman, who stayed out under the last 2 yellows, he is due within the next 5 laps of probably coming to pit road for a green flag pit stop. We'll then be waiting about another 10 laps before we see some other drivers ducking onto pit lane.
Yeah, and those drivers are going to have to come into the pit lane. That's third on back. They're the ones that are on 21-lap-old tires, while our front 2, they came into the pits at the same time. Now it's going to be Charles Johnson and Nick DeGroot. They came into the pits 16 laps to go, and they're going to be thinking about pitting here probably in the next about 12 to 16 laps. So looking for the mark around lap 41 to 42 for our front 2 to be coming into the pits. The rest of the field thinking about around lap 138 to about 141 probably is their marker to come into the pits.
Had a battle that was going on for 7th between AJ Hobson and Benjamin Combs. Benjamin Combs, another driver that's had a bit of a comeback run. He saw some contact up ahead of him, was running in the 7th position at the time, dropped down to the apron over through 3 and 4, dropped back outside the top 10. He's now worked his way back up into the 8th position. And another thing that I'm keeping an eye here on, Sam, as well, is just based off the fuel window you gave there, I think the calculations that you were stating, even when these drivers come to pit road, if they stretch it as far as they could possibly go, there's still another pit stop in their future before the conclusion of this race.
Yeah, at least if we stay green to the end, they've got this upcoming pit stop and a one after that they're going to have to worry about. And for the drivers that are going to be pitting sooner, they're going to be having a lot. They're going to have to worry about, are we going to have enough fuel to make it to the end? Because it's going to be very close for them if they're pitting any time in the next about 10 laps or so. That's when the driver's going to be really crossing their fingers and hoping that they got enough fuel to make it to the end. I think both for Nick DeGroot and for Charles Johnson, if this thing goes green, 2 pit stops, easily they can both make it.
And you have to wonder their ability to be able to work their way up through the field the way they did, if that is in part to just they have fast race cars, if you can attribute it to the incidents that we had that maybe could have brought out a caution and didn't. Everybody's still able to keep their noses straight as here comes that 54 of A.J. Musselman finally going to be coming to pit lane. We knew he was going to have to at some point here. And see, it stayed on the last 2 cautions. I'm not necessarily certain what it is that got these 2 drivers up to the front, whether it was just that their cars are fast, fresh tires, or the incidents that were going on ahead of them.
It was a mixture of both. I mean, both these drivers have been extremely quick. As there goes Johnson to the inside once again. Both drivers have been running very quick. We know Nick DeGroot is fast. He's been leading most of this race and has been duking it back and forth with Desant. And also, I mean, both of them had that incident that really scattered most of the field. Both of them stayed on the throttle, cut their way through traffic, and found themselves in the top 5 and were able to then slowly march their way up to the front too. And that's due to their just speed, raw speed that they have, and able to cut way through traffic, as well as cutting their way through that incident.
We said we'd update you on the 99 of Jimmy Drynan. He did indeed get back into the server, but he did not get back onto the track. So add him to the list of drivers that will not reach the conclusion of this Indianapolis 500. He joins Garrett Corley, Jeffrey Duncan, and David Leclaire in the garage area. Nicholas Wunk still sits on pit road, as does Kevin McCarthy. We're still waiting to see if they're going to be able to get back out there on the track. And talking about Kevin McCarthy, we saw him off the sequence of everybody else back in the first half of this race when we had those green flag pit stops. Came down by himself. It did not really work out to his benefit. He lost a couple of spots in the running order after the cycle was done. Well, that 54 of A.J. Musselman, I'm a little worried about him now because he had to come down pit road all by his lonesome.
Yeah, and he's going to now have to worry about, I think if this thing goes green, Musselman is going to be the one driver that is stuck out to dry, because it's doing the calculations on how many pit stops he's going to do. He's going to have to do at least 2 more, and he's right now about half a straightaway ahead of our lead pack, so it's not looking good for Musselman to make it to the end.
I'm going to take a look back here at the 20 of Corey Lane, trying to see if there's any damage on that machine, because he has dropped 28 seconds behind the race leader. And yeah, it looks like there's
some slide.
I don't think there's a rear wing on that machine.
Yeah, no, he's been dealing with a lot of damage. There is a rear wing-ish there, but he's got some damage that he's been dealing with. He was caught up in that incident that a lot of those cars were involved with Forsythe, as well as the other drivers involved. And so that's where we were seeing the reason why Corey Lane's dropping back, because Corey Lane was actually right there with Nick DeGroot cutting their way through traffic, and now finds himself, like I said, back in 13th and about to be under fire, being a lap down.
Could be a driver very much so hoping for a caution to come out, as you saw the 54 of A.J. Musselman is on the same straightaway as the leader. There he is going by our turn 2 camera down the back straightaway, and these guys all lined up, just creating so much more speed. There's about nearly 15 miles per hour difference between Charles Johnson and A.J. Musselman, who's all by his lonesome.
And right now, it's looking like Max Davies, Wagner, Desant, they're going to be thinking about pitting here probably in the next about 4 to 5 laps or so is their window. So they're going to be cutting it extremely close to be able to make it here and possibly 2 pit stops. They're going to have to really focus on utilizing the draft, slowing down, and focus on saving their fuel for both these next runs.
Oh, gracious. We nearly had ourselves a wreck there as the battle for the lucky dog position is on. Krista Nelson pushed up into Eric Peterson, almost put him into the wall. Nelson now in control of the spot as Peterson got kicked up there to the high line with a couple of the lead lap machines. So it gets nerve-wracking when you've got drivers that are on one agenda on their own lap around other drivers that are on the agenda of trying to get up there to the race lead.
Yeah, and A.J. Hobson's trying his best just to cut past these drivers that are a lap down, because now he's got Cobb He's got to worry about dealing with the cars behind him because there's just so much that's around these drivers, especially with lap machines. They are trying their best to stay focused, and also with having to worry about coming into the pits here shortly, that is another factor that these drivers are going to have to deal with.
Hobson took a look to the inside of Brandon Passalaqua. That would have been for 6th, tucked back in line there heading into turn 3, currently holding down the 7th position as Charles Johnson continues to show the way over Nick DeGroot, Alexander Van Desant. And you a little surprised that we haven't seen Desant actually try and fight his way back up here to the front, because first half of this race, he and Nick DeGroot kept having that one-upmanship battle of who was going to lead what lap. He's kind of just slotted there in the 3rd position right now and hasn't really looked like he wants to make a move any further to the front currently.
I think it's an understanding of, hey, I'm on the much older tires. I also need to worry about my fuel. Let's try to just save fuel and stay behind these drivers, not having to worry about being aggressive and overdoing anything. I think Desant's feeling comfortable in 3rd place, especially due to the fact that they're on such different sequences. But as I say that, Desant pulls it to the inside, trying to make a pass here on DeGroot, and possibly a pass here, and going to the lead is going to be the 317.
Looking for a 2-for-1 into turn 1, and he's going to get it going into turn 2. What a power move by Alexander Van Desant. We saw the 20 of Corey Lane coming to pit road. I believe this is a regularly scheduled stop. He's also, of course, going to take the opportunity to get some of the damage repaired as Desant and Johnson now will be side by side for the top position. Desant's going to hold on to the spot for the moment, and now we'll see. He's on the 32nd lap of his stint. When he's coming to pit road, here comes the 51. Davies is in.
Also, Combs is going to be following suit in the 77 machine and others, as there was about, I believe, 2, possibly 3 drivers coming in, and it was just those 2 of Davies and Combs that's going to be coming in.
You talked about something that these drivers might have in this race that I think is a huge plus if you do, and that is crew chiefs, because in a long endurance race like this, normally it's a race that you strategize from the back to the front of the race. It's a reverse strategy, and obviously when you're out there in the race car, you're not really wanting to have to worry about fuel and have to do calculations because you're racing in such close proximity to each other at over 200 miles per hour. Drivers making moves left and right. You've got to be ready for that. If you've got a crew chief that's up there in the box crunching those numbers for you, I got to think that's got to be not only a plus, but a big weight off your mind so you can just focus on racing.
Yeah, and right now I'm looking at, if you're going to be coming in, you're hoping you're coming in with at least 3 to 4 drivers, maybe even 5, because you want to utilize the draft to fullest potential and trying to save fuel, especially if you're going to be drivers like seeing Davies and Combs coming into the pits, because now both of them, whoever's leading those 2 drivers, isn't going to be in safe mode, and it's going to be losing a lot of fuel compared to the driver that's going to be following behind. So right now, those drivers are going to be cycling back and forth, and here comes Johnson into the pits. Surprising to see that driver coming in.
Oh, and we nearly had a car just clobber the pit wall there. I think that was Craig Forsythe, who was crowded by Todd Merkel. Also AJ Hobson in here with Johnson. And this is surprising, too, because Johnson was one of those guys like DeGroot that you had strategized could maybe make it around, lap 143, 144.
Yeah, he could have gone maybe a little bit further than what we've been seeing. And now looking at where we are at now, I mean, I talked about how Desant, he was saving fuel and was able to stay up front. You're seeing it now. Desant just pulled away and has such a major lead. Now he'll be coming up a lap later than the rest of the field, and Desant in a very good spot to be able to make it to the end. The only issue, he's got no other drivers that pitted with him. He won't be having any drivers help. Nick DeGroot now to the lead as he's got Wagner following suit.
I got to wonder, too, we saw that huge gap that he had back to Nick DeGroot because a number of the other drivers that were behind him had come to pit road. That amount of time that he spent out there on the track all by himself with no draft, would that hurt him?
I don't think it's going to be hurting him as much as we think it's going to, but right now I think Desant's going to be hoping to find traffic to work with and be in the middle of the field, try to save fuel, and he's in a much better spot than the rest of the field. Here comes Nick DeGroot and Matt Wagner. Wagner coming with a head of steam. He's got to find a way to slow down and will do so. Wagner, impressive, able to stay out for 36, almost 37 laps due to using the draft.
Your front row to start this race. There they are. DeGroot to start on the outside of the front row. Wagner, who started on the pole. They've also got Jim Brooks, Jeff Hysong, and Brandon Passalaqua coming down pit road with them on this lap.
Remember, this is not the final pit stop of the day. The drivers still need, if we stay green to the end, one more pit stop. That will be our money stop for these drivers. But still, this is a very important pit stop if we stay green, because this stop is going to be splitting everyone up on where they're going to be at, because we saw in that first green flag pit stop, it really changed up the factor of our top 7, just pulled away from the rest of the field. We'll see where they are laning up now as drivers getting back on track.
There's the lead change right there. Alexander Van de Sant will swing around the outside of turn 2, take the lead away from Nick DeGroot, who just came off of pit road. Matt Wagner's going to cycle into 3rd. Looks like Max Davies into 4th. And 5th place right now is going to be Charles Johnson, who now jumps to the outside of the 51.
And now we're going to be Charles Johnson trying to work that lane that we honestly could coin as the Corey Lane aspect, as the drivers behind them are ducking back and forth, as that was actually going to be AJ Hobson just trying to make some moves and seeing where he could place that machine for the 63.
Hobson and Passalaqua still going after it there for the 8th spot. Up ahead of them, you have Benjamin Combs. He's trying to catch up to Max Davies and Charles Johnson in a 3-way battle for the 4th position. I think right here for this group, we've got about maybe 7, 8, 9 drivers in this line. I think they'd be better off to just ride for the moment, single file, because you've got those 3 drivers up ahead of Van de Sant, DeGroot, and Matt Wagner. If they stay lined up nose to tail, they could open up a huge gap on 4th place on back.
Yeah, and right now, I mean, 3 cars in a line, that's not bad to see. Yes, you are carrying a lot of speed into these corners, but you're carrying enough speed where you actually don't have to let off as much. If you're in a line of about 9 cars or so, the draft is going to carry so much more speed into these corners. You actually have to back off more, and actually going to be losing a little bit of time without carrying too much speed into these corners. So the different factors to be watching out for, because it's looking like our front drivers, they're running faster than the line of 9.
It is right now 2.2 seconds from 3rd place Wagner back to 4th place Charles Johnson, about 2.5 seconds from 4th place up to the race leader, and they are gaining little by little. That last time by, I think they gained about maybe a 1/10.5. We'll see what they do this next time by. You saw the 54 of AJ Musselman come back down pit road. Another scheduled stop for him as he's way off sequence with everybody else.
And coming through the corner, I mean, they've gained another 0.2 on our leaders. So even with the way that they're driving back there, Combs is coming with that steam, and it looks like Johnson wants to lead this group as the 14 car makes the pass, and now they're going to be drifting back in. Right now, 1.5 seconds back from 4th to 3rd place, and once you get within a half a second to about 6/10, that's when you start really catching up to the drivers in front.
Comes back to the inside of Johnson. The gap now 1.5 seconds from the second group up to the first group, side by side there through 1 and 2, as Combs will get the advantage off the second corner. Yes, he will tuck up in front of Charles Johnson off of turn 2, and now gets crossed back over. Johnson back to the inside. All the while, these guys reeling in that top 3.
Yeah, and they're reeling in our top 3, and they're also using up a lot of tires with the way that they're just, dashing back and forth. Our front 3 have just been staying in line, running their own race, and just trying to save as much as they can moving forward. And I think that's why I would put our front 3 in a better spot. We might be seeing some passes for the lead from Johnson or Combs or even Davey, but I think by the end, before we start coming into that final pit stop, which should be around, with the timing of everyone here, should be around lap 68 to about 72. That should be around the zone that these drivers are going to be aiming for pit stops. Around that time, I think our front 3 there right now are going to stay our front 3, but that second pack has closed up, and they are there.
They are there for sure, and they've got momentum. Charles Johnson leading that second group. What does he do now that he's caught up to the back bumper of Matt Wagner? Looks like he may have backed off just a little bit and will slot into that 4th spot. Benjamin Combs, Max Davies up here as well. I believe we currently have 14 cars up inside of this lead group. 2 drivers that are praying for a caution right now. That is Eric Peterson and Kristen Nelson, because they have stayed out here in those machines. They're back on the lead lap, and they're in this lead pack. If a caution comes out, they don't have to rely on the lucky dog to get back onto the same lap as the leaders, but they're only about maybe 3 or 4 laps away from when they're going to absolutely have to come to pit road.
Also, you're going to be thinking that AJ Musselman as well as Corey Lane, they're praying for a caution to come out, as well as they're going to be just the two of them. Last cars on the lead lap and almost about to be put a lap down here, probably in the next about 8 to probably 5 laps.
Well, when Johnson caught the top 3, we got a car up in the wall hard. That's Todd Merkel in the 81.
Merkel, he's still trying to get his car straight. He's back into the wall again. As we stay green, at the moment, he's trying to just get his car moving forward, and he's struggling at it.
You got the whole right front tire tethered there, but loose. You've also got the right rear tire that's kind of pushed in, so he's having trouble even turning the car back to the left. He has to teleport it back to pit road. We still remain under the green. But I mentioned the fact that when Johnson got up to the top 3, he didn't start making any moves. The guy that's making moves was the guy that was second in that second group. That's a 77 of Benjamin Combs. He's going to go to the front.
Combs going up to the front in this 77 machine. He might have been one of the first cars to come into the pits, but he certainly's got a strong one. As Combs continues on, I went back and rewatched what happened to Merkel. It looked like between himself and Hysong made some contact, and it launched the 81 up into the wall.
Could have been a battle at the time for about the 10th position between those two. Merkel's been doing a great job today keeping his car clean and on the lead lap and up in the top 10 most of this race, but now finds some issues here late as Benjamin Combs out in front. 10th in the points coming into this race. 5 finishes inside the top 10, but he's looking for still only his second top 5 of the season.
Nick DeGroot powering on the outside through corner number 1. He might try to do it again here on Combs as he's still lingering on the outside, finding that grip that Lane was putting down for so long for the first half of this race. It's finally there. Nick DeGroot cutting it to the inside as they're coming up to lap traffic.
The 36 of Eric Peterson finally had to come down pit road. The 13, we're still waiting for Krista Nelson. She's actually on pit road now, so she's making her green flag pit stop. And the 81 of Todd Merkel teleported to pit road, currently back in the 17th position, still waiting for his tow to complete. As up at the front, Nick DeGroot has taken the race lead back. Now here comes Alexander Van de Sant looking for second place on the 77.
Yeah, Van de Sant kind of just waiting and lingering, not really able to make a pass just yet. And here comes Nelson up onto the track, and now we got a whole bunch of, you got to worry about Nelson getting up to speed. And where is Nelson going to be really stacking up with the rest of the field with the fresher tires, as well as being able to stay up front? Looks like Nelson going to be splitting up our second and third.
Had to keep her car down there on the inside line as DeSant had a big run, tried to go to the outside, nothing doing there. Ooh, I think that was, let's say that was Wagner that got awfully high there off of turn 4, got close to the outside wall. As now it's going to be the outside line for the 13 of Nelson trying to get around DeSant. She will do so. Right now, the 13, the goal is to get up here in front of the race leaders. The 36, the goal is to stay ahead of the race leaders so that way they'd be on the lead lap when the caution comes out, not have to start at the tail end of the field if they got the lucky dog.
And Peterson was not able to stay in front of Nick DeGroot. DeGroot still holding strong after getting by that machine. And right now, Combs is coming with that steam, utilizing the draft, carrying a ton of momentum down the front stretch. We'll see if Peterson's going to block. Most likely will not after being a lap machine. But here comes Nelson now with that esteem. Going to be trying to follow Combs. It might be thinking 3 wide for a second there.
Had a lot of drivers that have had some early issues and been able to combat them here in these first 150 laps, but now we're into crunch time. This is the final quarter of the race, under 50 laps to go, and we know that there's still a pit stop to be made for these drivers. The question is, would it be under green? Would it be under caution? It's what we would call the money stop, and there's still some drivers out here as well that we know for absolute certain have those 2 faster pairs still to lean on if we get some late race carnage.
Yeah, we know DeGroot's good. We know DeSant's good. We also know that Wagner is in a good position as well. Combs, I believe, might have used the faster pair already. Nope, we're looking at it. Combs is good. So really looking solid for themselves. Wagner might have gotten into some trouble, though, for that 16 machine.
Yeah, I saw him get up into the wall there in turn 4. It didn't really look like it was major damage or a major impact, but maybe it was a little bit more than I originally suspected. He has faded off of our top 4, is falling back into the clutches of AJ Hobson, and that's the tough thing with how sensitive the aero package is for these Indy cars, is what looks like a minor hit may actually be taking a couple miles per hour off the straightaway speed.
And it looks like Nelson trying to make a pass on the outside to unlap themselves, as continuing to hold strong for that 13 machine, trying to do everything they can at the moment to try to unlap themselves.
And obviously for Nick DeGroot, he doesn't want to race them real hard and take a chance of ripping up his race car, but at the same time, he can't lift and let them by, because the way that these cars work, it's all about momentum. If he lifts for even a second, he's going to have Desant and Charles Johnson all over his back bumper and maybe past him by the time he gets back in the throttle.
And the more that he's staying side by side, though, with Nelson, and we're starting to see Desant has been able to make the pass on Peterson. Pushing now is going to be Desant on Nelson as they're going down the front stretch into corner number 1.
Ooh, Nelson tried to pinch DeGroot down there in the first corner. Nothing doing. Now tucks back in line. Things getting really dicey between lead lap and lap machines. Drivers trying to get to the front of the field. Drivers trying to get themselves either in the lucky dog position or race their way back onto the tail end of the lead lap. For most of these drivers, their final pit stop's going to come up somewhere in the next 15 to 20 laps. We're going to step aside for what should be our final commercial break to then bring you to the checkers. You're not going to want to miss a bit of this action. We're going to keep you FRN side by side.
ETE Reman is the world's best remanufacturer of transmissions for import and domestic cars and trucks. Based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, our customers are repair shops, auto parts stores, dealerships, and distributors. And with 6 nationwide warehouses, we're where and when you need us. So when you're looking for a transmission that is like new, only better, instill confidence and install ETE Reman.
We're based out of West Monroe, Louisiana. We do custom T-shirts, racing. We'll do any shirt. We'll do schools, churches, fundraisers. We do a ton of event shirts, as you can see on our board here, all around our banner. Personalized. I mean, we'll do anything. It doesn't matter to us. We got the custom rugs. We use all the, top quality shirts, inks and everything. Hoodies, hats. We do embroidered hats, embroidered shirts. Just you can call us for anything. We do offer the bag and fold, to where you can receive them and they're already labeled and tagged and bagged, ready to give out to your customer and stuff. So you just call us and just tell us, hey, this is what we're looking at doing, and if we're going to put the car on there, it is 125 quantity minimum. If it's without the car, it's 60 quantity minimum. That's strictly on the racing stuff. If it's a business or something, if you race on Texas shirts, it's a little bit differently. You can call us. It just depends on your quantity and ink colors. Everything is hand drawn. I mean, everything. We don't Photoshop anything onto a shirt or anything like that. Everything that we go through, everything is drawn, and which is the reason for the art fees. We do have several graphic artists that draw for us, and they're really good. So what we do is on any package that you do, we can mix and match. We can do any colors. You can do purple, red, blue, green, and do the rest black. It doesn't matter to us. With your design on there, we can do hoodies. We can do hoodies, long sleeve shirts, t-shirts, tank tops. It doesn't matter. I mean, it's almost limitless what you can do, and you can put all that together in that package to make that minimum requirements. They can call us 318-278-7191, or they can email us at bulletprooftees@yahoo.com, or they.
We've now entered into the home stretch of the Dark Horse IndyCar Series Season 2 finale. The Indianapolis 500, 40 laps to go here. One more pit stop looming somewhere in the next 10 to 15 laps. Nick DeGroot out in front, but man, the top 5 have been mixing it up here since we were in that commercial break, and then we had him 3 wide for around 8th place a couple laps ago.
Yeah, we've been seeing our top 5 for sure mixing it up. It felt like our top 12 all on top of one another, not really giving an inch. And we're back to side-by-side racing again. For a second there, it felt like someone might have said, hey, calm down. Let's be careful here and not cause an accident. Some other drivers, though, hoping for an accident to come out. As we're coming closer and closer to the window of these drivers going to have to pit here, probably in the next about 9 laps or so. We're going to be seeing some drivers coming to the pits. It will be their final pit stop of the day.
And for most of these drivers, it'd be right on the window to make it the rest of the way. For a few of them, they would be on their 30th lap of their stint with 30 laps to go. So right on the mark, and some of that could be attributed to the crunch of the numbers of their crew chiefs, but it's all going to be about executing this final pit stop. The question is, though, will it be under green flag conditions? Because we almost were 3 wide for the lead there down the front straightaway.
AJ, oh man, Hobson is out of nowhere. That 63 machine shot off like a rocket and finally able to try to make some moves here as Hobson just qualified 3rd today. Didn't have the start that he wanted, has been having to march his way back up to the front. Finally has done it, up to 3rd place for the 63 machine.
AJ Hobson's looking for a bookend season with trips to victory lane. He won the season opener at Auto Club, led 40 laps in that event. He's yet to lead a lap here at Indianapolis, but he's up here inside the top 3, closing in on the end.
That 23 machine back in 5th place and 6th place, all got extremely out of shape. Almost dumped it into the inside wall. Got to be careful with these tires. You're running low, and also the tire wear, it's starting to lose away, and a lot of drivers doing a lot of moves that they wouldn't be doing earlier in the race that they're doing now.
All right, so let's talk some pit strategy here. We know that when they come down pit road, they're probably going to have to take on the full capacity of fuel to be able to make it the final 30 laps. But in terms of tires, do you maybe strategize and take on just 2 tires, or are you going on with that full 4 set?
You got to go with all 4. If you're going to pack it full of fuel, you got to go with all 4 tires, and you're seeing everyone snaking now. Nick Groot understanding, hey, it is now crunch time. It's no longer just, hey, I'll play nice. You've got to hold strong. We saw Nick DeGroot on our first green flag run. He stayed on the inside lane, made it to where everyone had to make the pass on the outside. And Corey Lane figured out, hey, that's something I got to work on. He worked on that outside groove for practically the whole entire first half of the race, and now has enabled it to where drivers can really make that outside line work.
Yeah, but when you go back to the strategy Nick DeGroot had at the beginning of this race, what he did is what we kind of call low lining. He wasn't really blocking. He was just holding the lane that he wanted and forced drivers to do something different. Now we're getting to the point where we're seeing Nick DeGroot block. He's going low, he's going high, he's trying to control the draft. As here comes our first couple drivers to pit road. It's the 77 of Benjamin Combs, the 20 of Corey Lane.
Oh, that is such right on the bubble. I think they might be about a lap or 2 short from coming into the pits. I think that they might have pitted just a little bit too early. They're going to have to stay in the draft and not able to make a real charge to the lead until later on in this race. Corey Lane, though, he's going to be a lap down. Right now, Combs is going to be having to do a lot of work at this point, just going to save mode from here on out.
Wasn't it about 36 laps, I think, that under the last round of green flag pit stops, Matt Wagner was able to make, but at the same time, he was able to save a little bit of fuel under that run. You really can't start saving fuel at this point in this 35 lap to go margin.
No, I mean, if you're going to be making a charge, you got to go now. I think when we saw Nick DeGroot, but this was back when we had a restart. He was able to make some quick passes soon. We also had an incident that was involved, but in about 10 laps, he went from 12th up to the lead. And 10 laps is a long time that's going to be these drivers going to have to deal with. And it's just a lot of effort if you're going to be trying to make a charge up to the front. But we've seen other drivers be able to do it. We're seeing drivers all race long trying to mentally get ready for these final couple of laps.
And that shows you right there just how much ground you lose when you come down pit road. Benjamin Combs was up inside of this lead pack. By the time he leaves pit road, he's just maybe 3/4 of a straightaway ahead of the race leaders, just barely hanging on to the lead lap.
Yeah, and he's just praying for hope and for help in any fashion, but he's all by his lonesome, so he's just going to be losing time, and he might actually, with this final pit stop, due to the fact that he's so far back, he might not have any help. He might be by himself once everyone starts to go through their pit cycle. So it's not looking good for the 77 unless the caution comes out.
When we hit the line, a number of drivers will be beginning their 30th lap on this cycle of tires. Charles Johnson, our race leader, is one of them, and he's going to come to pit road this time.
Charles Johnson going to be coming down, and I think Johnson's probably one of those few drivers. I haven't seen him gone past 32 laps on fuel. and with tires, and that is exactly what this 14 machine is going to have to do to finish out this race.
Couple more drivers we'll be expecting on pit road momentarily would be AJ Hobson and Craig Forsythe. They are on their 30th circuit on these Firestones as well.
Yeah, and looking at these drivers, Forsythe most likely going to come down this time by and use a fast repair after being involved in the earlier incident, but able to really rebound from that contact. And so, looking at some of these drivers, it might be your final time to use some of your pit stops. Here is coming to the pit. It's going to be the 76.
Jim Brooks in the 76. Now, I got a question for you here about some of these guys up here at the front that we've already figured out that they still have their 2 fast repairs. I would hesitate to say that their cars are completely clean. They may have had a little bit of a rub here and there, may have a little bit of damage. If you've got 2 fast repairs in the bank, when you come down pit road and you take on this pit stop, do you maybe use one of them right now just to make sure, in case this thing goes green to the end, that your car is going to be in peak performance?
It's kind of a catch-22 in a way. Yes, you'd like to. It's coming to the pits now. It's going to be most of our front runners, as our top 3 all pull it into the pits. Surprising to see they all came in at once.
DeGroot, DeSant, and Passalaqua all in this time around.
But yeah, no, these drivers, I mean, yes, you've got the fast repair to utilize it, but also you got to think, hey, what if all the what ifs come in of what if I get caught up in an accident and then I need that fast repair then, and then I won't have one to deal with even later on in the race. But also thinking about, hey, what if this thing goes green? There's so many different possibilities. It's really a risk to go out and try to utilize your fast repair now.
I would be shocked if we see any of our top 4 stay out this lap. Well, one of them does. I think that's the 16 of Matt Wagner is going to stay out, as now on pit road comes down AJ Hobson, Jeff Heisung, and Craig Forsythe.
Like you said, Wagner was one of those drivers that were able to push it out to 36 laps. And with him staying out a little bit longer, maybe he doesn't have to put in as much fuel as the rest of the field and might be able to have a lighter car at the end of the race.
Great point. And of course, the longer you stay out, the harder you can push it, because you know that you're going to be a little bit better on fuel than everybody else around you.
Also, you got to be thinking of the cars behind Matt Wagner. Can't wait to see this driver go in the pits. It's going to be Nelson as well as Peterson able to get their lap back, as well as they're going to be having to think about coming to the pits here. So the caution comes out right before Wagner comes into the pits, leaving Nelson. Oh, man, you hate to see that for Peterson and Nelson.
I believe it was the 63 of AJ Hobson who was leaving pit road just after completing the pit stop. Going to be bringing out this yellow flag, I do believe. And, you're right. If the 16 had ducked onto pit road, then both Peterson and Nelson would have been back on the lead lap. Now, because of the timing of this caution, it's going to be Peterson that gets the lap back. Nelson's going to have to wait for another caution.
Yeah, and that's just heartbreaking for Nelson there, who had a quick machine, just poor timing. Going to be leaving that 13 machine a lap down, but that was Hobson with a very weird place to be spinning out, but the colder tires, I mean, that is a factor for these drivers getting out of the pits, as Hobson was trying to get really giddy out of the pits and completely loops it around on the exit of pit road.
Wow, and that could have been... Man, you just think about the what-ifs there as the back end of the car stuck out just beyond that pit wall. And there were a number of our leaders, I think, there. I think I saw DeSant and DeGroot coming into turn 1 in that vicinity. That could have had huge implications into who was going to be the race winner if that had gone horribly wrong.
Well, now with this caution coming out, it's going to allow the drivers that were kind of on the edge, if they're going to make it, just able to save fuel and able to stay in front of these drivers. As we know, Wagner is going to be coming to the pits, but it might be leaving Jim Brooks, that 76 machine, as the driver that will be leading the charge here once we go green again.
We're going to take a look here from the front, or the in-car cam, I should say, of Nick DeGroot, who's going to get a bit of a shock when he gets down here into turn 1. The back end of AJ Hobson sticking out, and man, I wish we had like a heart monitor, perhaps, on both the driver of the 89 and the 76 of Jim Brooks, because you have to wonder what was going through their heads, the range of emotions there when they saw that car possibly backing up in front of them going into the first corner.
Yeah, because we've seen other cars earlier in this race not able to hold their brake and then drifting up into traffic and seeing just massive explosions. So luckily we were seeing Hobson get back onto the throttle and get back onto the stretch. But yeah, that could have been disastrous for so many machines that were on the lead lap and had not used a fast repair, and some had already used theirs. So I believe Jim Brooks had already used the fast repair already. Might have used up both of his. So that could have been a race-ending incident if the 76 was involved.
Our top three look like this when we get ready to go back green. Jeff Heisong, the race leader. Craig Forsythe in second, and Jim Brooks in third. Heisong, to my knowledge, this is the first time he's been out in front today. We haven't seen Forsythe lead a lap. Jim Brooks led a couple of laps when we were doing the cycle green flag pit stops, but these are three drivers that really haven't consistently been up inside of the top three all day long. This is going to make for a very interesting restart with what will be less than 25 to go. Nick DeGrood and Alexander Van de Sant, Charles Johnson, guys that we saw up in the top three before those pit stops. They're going to be back 4th, 5th, and 6th. So I think it's safe to say, Sam, we've now entered into that realm of the race that we call go time. This is where I think we're going to maybe see our most aggressive racing yet.
Yeah, I mean, under our last commercial break, you thought that the racing action was getting intense there. Expect that to be the consistent and the constant from here on out of drivers trying to go 2, 3 wide action, trying to get up front. Because if you pit now, if you felt like you were on the edge and you weren't going to make it, pit now. Feel like you're good so that you can make these aggressive moves to try to get up front.
Now, here's a thing that we should document. We talked about with the timing of that caution trapping a number of drivers a lap down, but because the 16 of Matt Wagner came to pit road, Eric Peterson gets the lucky dog, but Krista Nelson, Corey Lane, and AJ Musselman, they were ahead of now race leader Jeff Heisong. So since it was the pace car ahead of them and the race leader behind them, they've taken the wave around, which means we are going to have 14 drivers on the lead lap when we go back green.
And Nelson now going to be thinking about, hey, I need an early caution because Nelson's going to be on 24-lap old tires and fuel, so won't be able to stay out there only maybe for 10 laps. 10 more laps that driver can go, and so we're going to have to worry about green flag pit stops again while the rest of the field good to make it to the end.
Not sure if you saw what happened, but I'm seeing the 51 of Max Davies, the guy that we saw up in the top 5 for most of this race. He's dropped a lap down back in 16th. I didn't see him get involved in an incident. I'm almost wondering if maybe he had a pit road problem or something.
He was caught up in an incident, it looked like, previously to might have been under yellow. I mean, this machine actually was caught up for a while. Max Davies is going to be a lap down. I believe he did smash into the wall back on lap 171. And an incident while drivers were still cycling through their pit stops. Green flag pit stops were underway, and Davies having issues.
Oh, tough break there for the 51. He's the second car lap down. Right now, the lucky dog spot's held by Joe McAdory, 15th place. The green flag is out. 25 laps to go on the mark to finish out this Indy 500.
And it's going to be Heisong trying to pull away, but it's going to be, right now, seeing the 131 under heavy pressure from Brooks.
But he's also going to maybe have a bit of a push here and a toe down the back straightaway. Let's see what kind of a run he gets on Jeff Heisong. And what does Heisong do with the run? Here comes the 131 to the top. He's going to look for the lead going into 3.
It's coming to the outside. It's going to be Forsythe after having that incident back around lap 100 and I believe 20, able to come back and now leading this race as it looks like DeSant having to pull into the pits. Issues for the 317.
Obviously an unscheduled pit stop here for Alexander Van de Sant, who was looking like one of our front runners to win this race. Is this a possible restart violation? I'm not sure, as he's going to pull into his pit stall. No service, it looks like, going on for that 317, so not sure what's going on there, but look up here at the front. Nick DeGroot to the apron. He put those left sides as he'll go to the front.
Nick DeGroot's got he's got fresh tires, feels like he's confident to be making these aggressive moves, knows that his car is going to stick and able to make the pass. And now Hysong going to be trying to hold on as much as he can on the outside as battling back. Here comes the rest of the field trying to figure out how to hold back Nick DeGroot, because this 89 machine, with seeing, Desant gone and not really a factor anymore, also seeing Max Davies out of this thing, both those drivers were kind of favorites to possibly challenge Nick DeGroot. Now we got to see who are the newcomers that are now going to challenge this 89 car.
Yeah, the landscape of our front runners has completely changed. The only constant is that bright yellow number 89 of Nick DeGroot, who's got the challenge on the top side, courtesy of Jeff Hysong. It looks like DeGroot's gone back to the strategy he had at the beginning of this race. One right down there on the bottom. Jim Brooks ran a little bit lower there through 3 and 4, trying to see if he can force his own lane.
Yeah, and right now Hysong doing a great job of just staying where he's at. Brooke trying to just follow where the 89 car goes, following in the tracks. And also you got to be thinking about Combs back there in 5th place, that 77 machine. He's got to be thinking about maybe making a push here, but also in kind of a save mode. Those pace laps help the 77 save, but I think he's got to save just a little bit more, so he's not able to make the pressure just yet.
I think Jim Brooks made a little bit of a mistake over there in 1 and 2.
Oh, there goes Hobson into the wall. We say green for now, but Hobson hard into the wall, staying in the wall, and we're still green. Yellow now.
Yes, going to have a hard time, as I was going to say, getting down to the inside as there was oncoming traffic. Caution's going to wave for the 8th time here today. And A.J. Hobson, who was hoping to start the season and end the season with a trip to victory lane. Heavy contact to the right side of that machine. We saw it just in the back end of our camera view, a 3-wide situation gone wrong.
And that's why you don't go 3 wide into these corners. There's just not enough space. One little slip up, it causes you to drift up, and that's exactly what happened. Hobson, the victim of nowhere else to go. And now that the Hobson had to take a tow, it's now going to put Hobson about 1, possibly 2, and maybe even 3 laps down. And a chance at a win here is now thrown out the window.
It looked like it was contact between the 2 cars on the inside. It was the 76 of Jim Brooks getting into the 131 of Craig Forsythe, and then when Forsythe pushed up the track, unfortunately for Hobson, he was the top wide of the 3-wide formation, and the one to go up and get the outside wall. We'll take another look at that, and yeah, to your point, I mean, if he had been under power, Hobson could have easily come down pit road, taken on the faster pair, and probably been okay, because I'm pretty sure he still had a faster pair to work with, but now having to deal with that tow since he couldn't get back to pit road effectively could be taking him out of this race win.
Looking at where drivers are at, I believe Alexander Desant might be the driver that's going to be gifted the free pass in the lucky dog as we're waiting for the leaders to cross the line. Also, drivers coming into the pits, as that is actually going to be Charles Johnson coming into the pits, trying to possibly get new tires and maybe a little bit more fuel to make sure that he's good to make it to the end.
AJ Musselman, Kristen Nelson, boy, there's a happy person to see that caution come out, because I think she was 2 laps away from absolutely having to come to pit road. Corey Lane also on the pit lane, and you are correct. It will be Alexander Van Desant who is going to get the free pass. There he is going around to get his lap right now. So, going to be, 17 laps to go maybe when we go back green? Enough time for that 317 to get back up to the front, do you think?
I think it's plenty of time, especially, like I said, it took Nick DeGroot about 10 laps to go from 12th up to the lead. So, and Desant's going to be starting back in 13th place, so there's going to be enough time possibly for it to happen, but it's all about if we stay green to the end and how everyone's going to be racing in front of Desant, because we know the aggression level ever since about lap 55. Everyone has been just a lot more aggressive, a little bit more amped to try to make very bold moves, and it's only going to get worse from here with everyone understanding there is no green-white checkered. If you're going to make a move to the lead, you have to do it. And honestly, with the fact that there's no green-white checkered, you want to make sure that you are battling for the lead around lap 196, around that marker, because around 195 is the bubble time if we're going to have a 1-lap shootout.
The point of no return is what we call it here. Folks, if you're just tuning in, you're watching Flatout Racing Network's coverage of the Dark Horse Racing IndyCar Series Season 2 finale here, the Indianapolis 500. I'm Seth Cole alongside of Samuel Dyer, and we have had an unbelievable race up to this point. 180 laps in the books, about to complete the 181st lap as the field comes off of turn number 4. We have worked 8 cautions, seen a lot of lead changes, a lot of green flag pit stops, and a lot of comeback stories here as well. And getting ready for what's going to be less than 20 laps to go, a shootout here in the Indy 500. We've seen a lot of aggressive racing up to this point, and we're just continuing to raise our expectations in terms of what we're going to see. And so far, these drivers have not disappointed.
18 laps to go when we go green once again. The pace car lights are off. We're getting set and ready to go here, Seth. I mean, it's been wild to look at. I mean, look at some of the drivers that have gotten really those comeback stories we were talking about. I mean, Eric Peterson is up to 8th place after so much unluck. Really, the luck has not been there for this 36 machine, but now up to 8th place for himself. Corey Lane going to be up to 10th place after the woes that 20 machine has had. After a fabulous first half of the race, it has gone downhill. It looks like it might be creeping back up. But up front, Nick DeGroot has just been doing a great job all race long, has looked like the favorite, and has been driving fabulously, hasn't hit too much bad luck for himself. That's why he's up front in the lead.
Yeah, we saw Nick DeGroot in the early stages of this race run right down against that white line, especially down the straightaways, taking away that inside line from everybody else, forcing them to try something different. Now, in that case, it was seeming like he was going to school, seeing what he could do in terms of strategy in the closing stages of this race. So we've got a little bit of an idea of what he learned. The question is, in these 180 laps, what has everybody else learned that they can use as a counter to Nick DeGroot's strategy?
I mean, I think that's where we were seeing Corey Lane in the first half of the race, really marching and staying strong on the outside, trying to put grip on that second and third lane, trying to enable it for later on in this race for drivers to try to make a pass on Nick DeGroot. He won our championship already, clinched that earlier this season. Now just trying to finish off the season. Nick DeGroot waiting for the green.
We're going to have to wait and see if these final 18 laps will have a caution or two interspersed, or are we going green to the checkers? Nick DeGroot gets back through the gears, has about 3 car lengths on Jeff Hysong going into turn 1. Hysong looks back. There's Jim Brooks looming in his rearview mirror.
Jim Brooks has been very good on these restarts. That 76 machine has always been on the back gearbox of the car in front of him, and continuing on with that pattern as they go straight to the apron and back up. The snaking has begun. Nick DeGroot trying to break off any sense of draft, and now is going to go right back to what he was doing on that first green flag run. Stay low, not give an opening, and he's just going to stay as low as he can all race long.
Brooks took it really wide there through 1 and 2. Opened the door for Forsythe to look for the 4th position. Nothing doing. We got a Cardinal issue.
Yeah, that's going to be Charles Johnson. And also looks like Desant made contact, and Johnson stuck on the wall. He's finally gotten going, but he's stuck in the middle of the track. He can't get down the apron, it looks like.
We're still green. There is no oncoming traffic just yet. He will get it down to the apron, so the green flag will remain out for the time being. Up at the front, maybe contact there between DeGroot and Hysong down the backstretch.
And Hysong going to be staying strong on the outside, going to be trying to make a move. Also, you got yourself Forsythe, who's following suit. And then you also got Wagner, our pole sitter. He's going to be lingering back in 5th place, just waiting, as well as Combs, just waiting for their chance to pounce on anyone else's mistakes.
Oh, man, Jim Brooks, there was some contact there between himself and I think that was Matt Wagner out of turn 4. And I know that DeGroot's forcing these guys to go to the outside, but it almost seems like that's a dangerous place to be because the slightest bit of contact puts you up into the wall. We've seen it all race long.
Yeah, and you just got to be careful. Once you're that car on the outside, you got to be holding strong as Forsythe drifts up a little bit, trying to carry that momentum. As these drivers are just going to be trying to figure out how to stay in line. The draft, caution out, though in the back, it's going to be Nelson.
Kristen Nelson's going to bring out the 9th caution of the day as she's going to teleport the car to pit road. That's going to be a big break for a couple of drivers, namely A.J. Hobson, who was involved in the last caution. He's going to be in the free pass position. And it looks like Charles Johnson, who did not get the aid of a caution to save him after his incident up in 1 and 2, he has DNF from the race.
Yeah, Charles Johnson's wreck, a terrible one to see for the 14, has parked it and done. Nelson's wreck, very aggressive, coming out of 1 into the outside wall, and then stays on the wall, almost went tumbling in this machine. And gosh, it is a violent wreck for the 13 machine.
Starting here with Johnson's wreck. This was going into turn 3. Oh, wow. Yeah, I think that might have actually been the 51 of Max Davies, the lap machine, that got into it with him. And hard up into that outside safer barrier for the 14 car, takes him out of the running. We'll now jump ahead and see what happened to the 13 of Krista Nelson, who had just gotten back onto the lead lap, took the wave around, got the caution, got back on the lead lap, and was trying to make her way up into the top 10.
Looking at the drivers that should be getting their lap back with a lucky dog, I believe that might be Hobson that could be that driver getting the lucky dog spot here.
Watch the wild ride of Krista Nelson, and I'm going to be honest with you, Sam. Based on the high speeds we know that these Indy cars have at this track, I'm surprised we haven't seen more of this, of cars going up and over.
Yeah, there have been a couple of accidents that we thought maybe someone was going to be making a lot of contact into the pits. It's going to be Musselman as well as Davey and Hobson all coming in, trying to get repairs done for their machines, maybe get a little bit fresher tires for themselves and find themselves back out there on track. Looking at drivers that are going to be trying to make some moves forward. I mean, Desant's going to be one of the favorites to try to make a push up to the front. Corey Lane hasn't really been able to make any charge in that 20 machine. I think all the speed that 20 machine has had earlier in the race might be gone. But I think the real question here, Seth, is how much longer do you think these drivers are going to go before we find our next caution? Because we've already seen the aggression levels be so high, and we know it's only going to get worse from here.
Well, here's the thing. People probably wondering in the early stages of the race when we had that long green flag run, why did we go green for so long and now we're having the cautions come out? I think the big reason, you have to look at the corners here on these particular laps of the side-by-side racing. Earlier on, these drivers were more than willing to give about a car length of space between each other going into these turns. If you looked back at that battle between Nick DeGroot and Jeff Hysong for the race lead, there was very little room between either car. You had Hysong trying to pinch DeGroot down to the inside. You had DeGroot trying to push Hysong up a little bit to have a better corner exit. The room is not there anymore in the side-by-side battles. That's why we're seeing the contact and drivers going up into the outside wall. So, to that point, to answer your question, I think we got a couple more cautions coming up here because guys back there from 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, they're not necessarily in desperation mode, but they're definitely in need-to-go mode because in order to make a pass here at Indianapolis, you've got to first set it up. And so to get yourself up there to set up mode, you've got to get yourself up at least in the top 3, somewhere in the vicinity of, I would say, somewhere about maybe 8, 7 laps to go, because as you said, we get into around 3, 4 laps to go, the race could end under caution.
Yeah, it's about 4, almost 5 laps these drivers have under caution. So it's something where these drivers have to really start thinking about it. Hey, when we're only going to be having possibly 2 chances at most, maybe 3 chances, if we have a caution right when we go green. So this is going to be very close and hard racing because the drivers have recognized, hey, we're at go time. There is no coming back. There's no give. It's all take. You got to grab every position you can get from this point on. And this is all about winning the Indy 500. You've been running for so long, 200 laps these drivers have to put down. And we talked about fatigue earlier on in this race. Some of them have to be feeling it at this point, especially a little bit of mental fatigue of all the number crunching and trying to figure out how much fuel do I have left? Okay, we're good on that. Okay, where do I need to place my car for a chance to make a pass in front of me? And all of those different moves, while also trying to make sure you hit your marks and don't make any mistakes.
Yeah, we've given you a lot of in-car camera shots here today where you've seen the steering wheel. Looks like it's being held rather steady, like these drivers are out there for a Sunday drive. But no, these drivers are wheeling it constantly because I kind of describe it that these cars don't drive around the track, they float around the track. So it's almost like driving a cloud for all of these drivers out there. You are constantly working that wheel to keep it as steady as possible. So definitely these drivers, I agree with you. The fatigue is there not only mentally, but also possibly physically, but they're going to have to hold on for another 12 laps. Just to highlight one more driver before we go green, how about Jeff Hysong up here in the 2nd spot? This is only his 3rd start of the season. Subsequently, he's down 29th in points, but he's run 2 ovals so far this season, has yet to finish inside of the top 10. He's now in the 2nd spot with a chance of winning the Indy 500 as Nick DeGroot gets us back underway.
Nick DeGroot already out to a half a second lead, and honestly, he needs to get to a little bit further than that if he wants to try to just pull away from Hai Song and the rest of the field. Believe Hai Song might be close enough to try to utilize the draft here, but I don't think he's close enough to really make a pass on this back stretch. As he's getting the run, getting up to speed, here comes Hai Song. He's getting closer. He's going to be able to make a pass here, possibly coming into corner number 3, but he just doesn't look like he's close enough. Nick DeGroot straight to the bottom.
And there goes to the top side, Jeff Hai Song. No surprise, we saw him go to the outside line to try and make the pass under the last run. He's now alongside Nick DeGroot for the top position. Craig Forsythe right there in the 3rd spot, second in points, looking to see what's happening with the top 2.
You talked about Forsythe. He's had that consistency to be second in points. Hasn't gotten the win yet. He could possibly be getting his first win to finish off season 2. As it's going to be Nick DeGroot still holding strong on the inside. We saw this on the first real good green flag run. Nick DeGroot holding strong on the inside. No one was able to make the pass. Who will try to make it? As really all these front runners, besides Nick DeGroot, they're all new. We haven't really seen them up front.
And take a look back there, Jim Brooks in the 76. We're 3 wide going into turn 3. The car that backs out was Jeff Hai Song as Forsythe put it high, wide, and handsome there on the top line.
And gonna be able to make the pass for second place. And here comes Forsythe. Gonna be following the draft, bopping it up to the high side. Almost a little bit of contact between our front 2. And here comes Forsythe with a hell lot of speed. And he might be clear. He's just not clear enough to make the pass for the front.
Edged ahead in turn 1, but now DeGroot back to the inside, draws even, had a car almost back in the wall there. Looked like that might have been Van de Sant, who's still mired back in the 9th position, has not really been able to make a lot of forward progress just yet. Snaking down the back straightaway, DeGroot goes low, Forsythe's going to stay on the top, down to the bottom goes the 18 of Hai Song.
I've got to say, for the drivers that might have a chance for our leader, I think this is going to be Matt Wagner as well as Benjamin Kolb back in the 5th and 6th position. If they could somehow march their way forward, both of them have made charges to the lead. I think there's drivers to watch out for if they have a shot. But here comes Forsythe once again to the outside.
We talked about the fact that a lot of the fundamentals of this type of race mirror a super speedway race. Well, it's very difficult to go coast to coast, pole to win a super speedway. Matt Wagner started on point. He wants to finish there, currently trying to hold down the 5th position. He's got Combs alongside of him for that spot.
The biggest issue is the drivers that are in the back half of this front pack. They are getting so clogged up on the entry of these corners. They're almost 2-3 wide and about to make contact back there. If we're going to see a caution, it's going to be around 8th, 9th place.
Forsythe gonna go back to the top line, tries to get to the right rear quarter panel of DeGroot. Nothing doing. Now slingshots off of turn 4, back alongside. Who's gonna lead this lap at the line? Because this could be a race-winning move if it comes down to the checkers. It was Forsythe by a splitter.
It was Forsythe by 0.005 of a second, and that's all he needs to do.
The wall. Hard impact back there. That's Corey Lane in the 20.
Corey Lane, its woes continue. He's still stuck in the wall. We could be possibly seeing a yellow here as more traffic comes by. Yellow flag.
Caution's gonna come out as we closed in on 7.5 laps to go. We will get back green as more trouble plagues the 20 of Corey Lane, and we're gonna have to rack him up and do it one more time.
Yeah, Corey Lane, same spot that we've seen him have issues previously. It strikes once again. Coming into corner number 1 off exit is that short chute that just continues to be plaguing this 20 machine.
Well, Corey Lane had managed to work his way back onto the lead lap after coming down pit road for damage sustained under a green flag run. Was running up inside of the top 10 at the moment this happened.
Yeah, it looks like there might have been a little bit of an air pocket that just launched the 20. It just... You know, that's the thing with how close these drivers are, the aero and the wind and how much air is moving these vehicles. It looks like it might have been the air that really pushed that 20 car out into the wall.
That, I believe, was the 36 of Eric Peterson he was battling, so that would have been a battle around the 8th position at the time. And again, the same situation that I just touched on moments ago. It seems like if contact is made in a side-by-side battle, it's that car on the outside that always seems to pay.
Yeah, and that outside wall just continuously is brutalizing a lot of these vehicles.
Now, it looks like that is going to more than likely take Corey Lane out of the running for this victory. So now the question is, who's going to be able to make the most of the rubber he laid up in the second and a half, and third grooves in the early stages of this race? It looked like it was working for Jeff Hai Song a while ago, and then Craig Forsythe was utilizing it against Nick DeGroot. So it kind of looks like for the moment now, Sam, that maybe the one thing that Nick DeGroot is not prepared for is the fact there is some rubber, there is some grip up in that second lane that drivers didn't have to their advantage back in the early stages when Nick DeGroot was forcing them up to that higher line.
Yeah, and that's something that's just going to evolve throughout the race. I mean, 500 miles these drivers are going to be racing on. You got to be working in that high line at some point for the potential of this move. I mean, Forsythe, he's got the momentum. I mean, for the first 50 laps, Nick DeGroot, when he was holding strong on the inside, he was beating cars by 5-6 thousandths of a second when they would come across the line. Now he's the one who's losing 4 to 5 thousandths of a second coming across the line with the drivers that are on the outside. So it's completely changed on where you want to be coming out of these corners, and it's all about how well can you get out of these corners at the moment. Nick DeGroot, he's got to find some new speed. But like you said, the pinching motion that we've been seeing from the cars on the outside, I think that's what's really been hurting Nick DeGroot, because we weren't really seeing that much of it in the first half of the race.
Looks like when we go back green, we will be in that realm, the point of no return. If the lights go out this time, it will be 4 laps to go when we eventually go back green. Talked during that green flag run about the possibility of Matt Wagner maybe going coast to coast, pole to win. If we look over some of his statistics coming into tonight, he also, for the most part, has run a lot of the ovals this season and comes into today's race the defending winner from last week. At Donington National, started second and finished in first. So started on the front row and finished P1. Well, he started on the front row here today at Indianapolis, started on the pole. We'll see if he's going to be able to close out the deal.
Yeah, and right now, continue to watch and see how these drivers are going to react. Getting ready to go green once again. Lights are still on our pace car as we are about to come. I believe it's going to be 4 laps to go once we go green once again. Drivers that are in the back, looking at drivers that are trying to get repairs done. Corey Lane still in pit road, trying to get repairs done. 2 laps down, about to be 3 laps down for the 20 machine. Looks like Nelson's still in pit road getting repairs done. McCarthy's still in pit road getting repairs done. You're really just looking at our top 12. Those are the drivers that are left on the lead lap. Pace car lights are off. We're going this time by 4 laps to go, Seth. Our next caution, if there is a caution, will end the race under yellow.
It will indeed, and it looks like the 12 drivers that we have on the lead lap, they're basically going to be the drivers we'll have in the lead lap up to the end of this race, provided none of them get involved in a wreck between now and the checkered flag. We'll set it up for you here. It's Nick DeGroot, the race leader, Craig Forsythe in second. How ironic, the top 2 in the points, or the top 2 in the running order here in the season finale at Indianapolis. Jeff Highsong will be third, Matt Wagner in fourth, Jim Brooks will line up fifth, Benjamin Combs is sixth, Alexander Van Desant in seventh, Eric Peterson in 8th, Brandon Passalaqua in 9th, and A.J. Musselman will complete the top 10. Joe McAdory got the lucky dog under this latest yellow. I'm sorry, two yellows ago, I should say. He's 11th, and A.J. Hobson right now is in 12th. The reason that I'm stating that there will be no other drivers on the lead lap, even if we got a caution between now and the end and we got a lucky dog driver, the next car a lap down is Todd Merkel. He is -2, so he would only get one of those laps back. So he's 13th. Max Davies in 14th. Corey Lane currently on pit road. More damage being repaired on his machine. He scored 15th. Todd Schneider is 16th. And Kristen Nelson currently scored in 17th position. Out of the race, Charles Johnson scored 18th. Kevin McCarthy on pit road. Damage repaired in 19th. And then 20th is Jimmy Drennan. Rest of the field right now, Gary Corley in 21st out of the race. Jeffrey Duncan all of the race in 22nd. Nicholas Wunk and looks like David Leclaire is going to complete the finishing results for today's event, but who's going to get the win? This is it. It's crunch time. It's all come down to this. Driver's trying to figure out when the 89 is going to go, and he finally punches the accelerator.
He waited until the very last moment was Nick DeGroot, and it just accordion effect the whole entire pack behind him, and away they go green. As now we're going to be seeing Nick DeGroot. He's got to know that Highsong's going to be coming. Forsythe's going to be coming with a head of steam, as well as Highsong back there in third place. Matt Wagner's coming with a head of steam as well. As now Nick DeGroot snaking it down the backstretch, as it looks like Forsythe wasn't getting this good of a run as we've seen him previously.
And he's going to fall back into the clutches here of Jeff Highsong and Matt Wagner. Now all 3 of them start to close up to the 89 of Nick DeGroot. And you can bet, with Nick DeGroot having the championship locked up and winning 5 races so far this season, anybody that gets to his back bumper, they're going to give him no quarter. They want to finish out the season with a checkered flag as well. They want to kiss the yard of bricks. 3 laps to go.
Oh, they were almost 3 wide there for a second. Here comes Wagner on the outside. He might be put in the wall, able to stay off the wall for a second. As now it's Nick DeGroot continuing on. Forsythe trying to hold back for second place. And as they're battling side by side, there goes Nick DeGroot pulling away.
The group pulls it away by about maybe 2 car lengths down the back straightaway. Wagner tiptoeing around the outside. Forsythe on the inside. Highsong waiting to see what happens. And don't look now. Here comes Alexander Van Desant. He's worked his way up to 6th behind the 76 of Jim Brooks.
The issue is we're coming to 2 laps to go, and he's back in 6th place. He's got to make a major pass.
Right. Oh my goodness, and they're going to make it work. They settle it back out to 3 going into 1.
Forsythe, they might have made the pass. There goes Highsong. Forsythe's in the lead.
And also spinning is Matt Wagner. Forsythe is the race leader here by half a car length over DeGroot. It looks like they are decreasing speed. Frozen field. Forsythe's going to win this thing.
Forsythe, he used the Corey lane up there and gets it done on the outside. He just needed a nose, and that's how far he was when that yellow came out.
Jeff Highsong and Matt Wagner, who were also in the middle of that 4-wide situation on the front straightaway, they get the short end of the stick. Forsythe, who I believe was 3rd car on the outside line of that 3-wide situation, that outside line into turn 1 was the difference maker. Half a car length is what he had on Nick DeGroot when the caution flag waved.
Yeah, just going and rewatching it, it looked like Wagner popped up and just started drifting up a little bit, and Highsong had nowhere to go with that 18 machine getting caught up, and away he goes, caution coming out, and wow, Forsythe somehow making that out. We knew the outside line, it was going to be a problem for Nick DeGroot, but he could not try to defend that position. He had to just stay on the inside, hope for the best, and it just wasn't enough. Forsythe, he might not win the championship, but what a way to end the season.
Was 117 points out of the championship hunt coming into this race, so an impossibility. Also was winless this season. Talk about sweet redemption here to cap off a runner-up season for the driver of the 131, as Craig Forsythe that last time around was receiver of the white flag. This time when he comes off turn 4, the checkered flag will wave over the nose of his machine, and he and his team will not only be going to victory lane at one of the most iconic and historical tracks on the circuit, they're going to get that to do that very special victory celebration, kissing the front straightaway yard of bricks.
Forsythe's got to be just shaking his head on how he found himself up front in winning this race. At the middle part of this race, he got shuffled to the back. He'd been having so many woes, bad luck striking this 131 almost all race long. But at the end, he found himself in the right position, able to strike and make the pass.
Craig Forsythe comes down at a measly 70 miles per hour, and he is going to cross the start-finish line, picking up the victory in the Indianapolis 500. Nick DeGroot, the championship was already locked up, but it is now official. He is going to be the champion for Season 2 of the Dark Horse IndyCar Series.
I mean, I don't want to say that I said it, but I did say that Forsythe was my dark horse pick at the start of the broadcast, and he had so much momentum. Yes, he didn't get the win, but you just knew it was coming at some point for this 131, and it came here today.
Well, from the elation of victory to the agony of defeat, we're going to go back and take a look at a replay of what ended this race under the caution. We'll actually go all the way back to off of turn 4, the 4-wide situation that kind of led up to the contact we saw in 1 and 2 involving Jeff Highsong and the 16 of Matt Wagner. And here it was. There's the 4-wide as Forsythe puts his car in the middle, clears off into turn 1, and yeah, there's the contact you talked about. Just the 16 just drifting up just a little too much, and that right front makes contact with the left rear.
And it's just because of the entry. You had 4 cars going at so many different entry points. You knew that you hope that all of them could hit their marks at the same point, but you knew that with how aggressive and how amped up everyone is that moment, someone might have made a slip up, and it was Wagner that just drifted up slightly. Highsong had nowhere to go, and somehow Forsythe, with the guts to even try to fit that thing through the middle, able to make the 131 machine just narrow enough to fit through, go 4 wide, and find himself on the outside of Nick DeGroot and get the lead. He's past the finish line and now about to get ready to go celebrate with some burnouts. Forsythe was an amazing run for himself. You know, Nick DeGroot wanted this thing. He was up front. He was challenged everyone that was coming at him. And a late caution. You know, something had to go and break. Bad luck strikes the 89 machine at once.
Matt Wagner was able to limp his machine back around under pacing, finishes on the lead lap 11th. Highsong had to teleport his machine to pit road, but he will still finish in 12th as the burnout celebration continues on the front straightaway for Craig Forsythe. And let's take a look at the finishing results here today from Indianapolis. And man, Forsythe with the win, DeGroot in second, Jim Brooks, you know, we ended up talking about how we were going to kind of see two entirely different races. The first half of the race, second half of the race. We didn't really talk about Jim Brooks in the first 100 laps. Then, lo and behold, final 50 laps. He's up there in the conversation for this victory.
Yeah, Jim Brooks, probably one of my favorite drivers to watch during restarts. He just was always on top of the car in front of him and always kept it close. I think the interviews might have been the starts might have been the best things for the 76 machine. Crazy to see.
He is, looks like, going to finish officially third in the point standings with the third place run here today. Alexander Van de Sant, you know, you wonder what that unscheduled pit stop was back there on the restart. It dropped him way back in the running order, and he was only able to fight his way up there to fourth place. You almost wonder if he had been up maybe in the top 3 on that final restart, if maybe we'd have seen the 317 go into victory lane.
There were so many different factors and things that came into this race. A wild day, certainly for all these drivers. And what a wet day to finish, to start this, really to just get this thing over with for this season. I mean, what great momentum going into season 3 here shortly for these drivers. Just a great way to end it for Forsythe.
And this is why you run all the laps, because if you look at some of those other names we had there inside the top 10, Eric Peterson, AJ Musselman, Joe McAdory, AJ Hobson, at one point or another in this race, they were all recipients of the lucky dog to get back on the lead lap, and they're able to salvage out the day with top 10 finishes. Down track side we go. Let's get some interviews with our top 3 finishers, and let's see if we can kick things off with our third place runner. That is the driver of the number 76, Jim Brooks. Hey, Jim, it's Sam and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us?
I do.
Man, what a great race for you here today. You guys had to make 200 circuits here at Indianapolis at over 210 miles per hour. But up there in the conversation for this win in the closing stages, was there any way to formulate a plan, or was kind of trying to play it by ear and see what the situation was after every corner?
That's a good way to say it. No, there was a lot of competition, great setup. Thank Lionheart for that. I was really hoping it wouldn't have cautions there after that one green flag pit stop, because I came out with Nick and I think we had a little bit of a gap. And once everybody pitted, I think we'd have been able to leapfrog ourselves away and then fight it out. But it was great. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, Jim, I mean, that was a wild run from our point of view, just to watch how that finale went. What was going on through your mind, though, when you saw everyone going 4 wide?
They were behind me, so that was pretty good. Yeah, it was pretty racy, and but again, a lot of fun. These guys are good drivers, and you know we all make mistakes. But I think all in all, it was a very, very good race.
Yeah, Jim, we went over your statistics coming into today's race. 3 top 5s, 8 top 10s, sitting third in the point stands. And to cap off the season here with a third-place run at Indianapolis, a great season for you overall. Congratulations. We're now going to give you the opportunity to do some thank you, shout-outs, and sponsors.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys for covering the race. This is great. Should be a long partnership. And again, Lionheart for working with us. And Charles Teed and the whole group there at Dark Horse. It's a good league. I enjoy it.
Well, that's Jim Brooks. P3 is how he caps off the season here of season 2 of the Dark Horse IndyCar Series. Once again, congratulations on a great run there, Jim, and thank you for putting on quite a show for us.
Thank you.
Let's see if we can now get our runner-up finisher, a driver that may have led the most laps here today, certainly was up in the top 3 for the most part, and that is Nick DeGroot. Nick, it's Sam and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us?
Yep, I got you.
Man, a dominating car here today, out in front for a majority of this race, but then it came down there to the closing stages and the timing of a caution. I know obviously you've got the elation of winning the championship. You had that locked up coming into tonight's race or today's race already. But man, how much does this one hurt just knowing that it was more than likely going to come down if we went green to the end of who was going to edge who at the start finish line?
Yeah, it was the one thing I was worried about once we crossed the point of no return, a caution flag, because I knew if I just held that bottom and kind of managed their runs, I was probably going to get him at the line at the finish. But yeah, he had such a run there on the front stretch. I think we were 4 wide for a moment, and entering turn 1, I knew he wasn't going to clear me, but it was a good enough run to get him alongside me. And I was just thinking, okay, it's going to be 1.5 laps, me and him. Just got to time this right. Got to make sure I have the nose in front of the line, and boom, right there, yellow. While we're like nose to nose, there's few inches between us, but yeah, that's a crap way to lose it. Factory Back Motorsports. We've won every oval we've entered this year with this league, with myself and Kobe Moore up until this one. But Craig's been right there every week. He's yet to win one until this race. He was right there, and you knew he was going to get one eventually, and he got the crown jewel. So I'm happy for him at least.
Yeah, Nick, I mean, we were seeing how in that first green flag stint that you were dominating on the inside. We knew that you were going to bring that back at some point, but during the middle of the race, you were duking it back and forth and really giving the inside to anyone who wanted to take it. At what point did you change your mentality of, okay, I got to defend this inside lane?
Yeah, so the first run, I just wanted to see how good it was, and if you could hold it the whole run, or if you'd start to push. And with how cool the track was, there was really no push the entire run. So I put that in the memory bank, and then I just started doing the swapping with Alex and some other guys. But yeah, I knew that final run, once you get that lead, hold the bottom. And we were able to make that big move on Craig with the 30 to go restart, I think it was, and hold it there through a few restarts, and we did a good job holding it. Just at the end there, it didn't work out. But yeah, I remember that from the beginning of the race and knew that was the way to win it at the end.
Well, Nick, once again, congratulations on the victory of winning the championship here for the Dark Horse IndyCar Series. 5 wins this season. Been an unbelievable season for you. Congratulations on that overall. And, close there at the end, but congratulations on a dominating performance here today, even though you do bring it home in the second position. We're going to now turn the microphone over to you for some shout-outs.
Yeah, it's been an incredible season with this league, Factory Back Motorsports, and I just got to thank Kobe Moore. He's put this team together from the start, and he actually showed up in the middle of this season. He did a part-time schedule, kicked my butt a couple races, one back-to-back, so got to thank him for everything he's done. And yeah, thank sponsors, motorsport.com, who I've worked with for the past 7 years, and everybody else. And yeah, just got to thank this team. It's a great team we have here at Factory Back.
Well, that is Nick DeGroot. He finishes second here tonight in the season finale at Indianapolis, but he is also your Dark Horse IndyCar Series Season 2 champion. Congratulations, Nick. And let's see if we can now get our race winner down in victory lane. If they're not already doing the kissing the brick celebration, let's get a word with Craig Forsythe. Hey, Craig, it's Sam and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us?
I got you. How you guys doing tonight?
Man, I can only imagine the emotions that were going through your mind at the timing of that caution, knowing that you had just edged ahead of Nick DeGroot, and we're going to be coming around there under pacing to receive the checkered flag here at Indianapolis. We documented coming into this race the consistency you've had this season, but the lack of wins. To get a win here in the season finale at Indianapolis, what's it like?
It's everything I could have hoped it was. Nick has been the cream of the crop all season. He's been who I've been chasing all season, and he's just always coming out on top. So it was nice to finally get one into the win category. That's for sure. And if you're going to get a win, this is the win you want.
Yeah, Craig, we saw that you had issues in the middle of this race, and then you had to battle your way forward. How was that trying to reset your mentality and trying to build your way back up to the front?
I mean, anyone that drives with me a lot knows that I'm usually happy sitting at the back of the lead pack. As long as I've got the draft, I'll happily follow everyone around and wait until the last 2 pit stops or so. But I got up into the wall. I think with Krista there, and then the car was damaged. So at that point, it was just trying to desperately maintain the draft, but I'd been fuel saving the whole race to try and save a fuel stop, and trying to balance still maintaining pace while saving fuel to make my my pit window was getting harder and harder as that stint was going on. So it was good to finally get into the pits. And then I think I got super lucky. Unfortunate for it was AJ Hobson spun coming out of the pit lane, and it was just I just came out of the pit lane as the caution was flown, so I ended up jumping from 8th or 9th up to 2nd just because the lead pack was going down the main straight when I came out of the pits. So technically I was ahead of them. But had that stayed green another 5 seconds, the pack would have been past me and I would have been back down in the back of that pack.
You know, Craig, coming into today's race, we didn't really know what to expect. We knew that everybody was going to try and end out the season with taking this crown jewel race, the final trip to victory lane here in season 2. We saw some early cautions, some early short stints. We saw a couple of long green flag runs, and then we saw some short stints here at the end. How difficult is it with the way that these cars are and the way that the draft comes into play so much on restarts to kind of swap your mentality from short run to long run and then back to short run again?
Yeah, I mean, when you're doing the short runs, it's like you've got to go for it, and you've got to make the positions count. I mean, that's where you were seeing the 2 or 3 wide pass attempts because guys knew it's they needed to get the positions before another caution or there's only 20 laps to go, so you just got to go for it. So it worked out, and Nick was never going to give up the bottom. I don't blame him. I wouldn't have given up the bottom. So I made a couple attempts just to see how the outside. I'd done earlier passing. That's how I'd made it up through the pack. By generally, it was by going on the outside and just as long as I had a car in front of me to maintain the draft down that next straight, it worked out fine. So I'd made a few attempts at the outside pass, and I think maybe 2 out of the 6 I'd ended up crossing the line, crossing the start finish line as the leader. So it was going to be a coin toss more in Nick's favor if we'd maintained that way. So the caution coming out was just luck, and I happened to be ahead at the time and only by probably a foot. So I'll take it, that's for sure.
Well, you may call it luck with the timing of that caution, but man, there's no doubt about it. That 4 wide move you made there coming to the start finish line, heading over to turn 1, that was the difference maker, I think, as well in setting up you being out in front of DeGroot when that caution came out. Congratulations on the victory there, Craig. We're now going to turn the microphone over to you. Let you do some shout outs.
I got to thank you guys over at Flatout Racing for doing a great broadcast for us. Looking forward to watching it. I got to thank the Lionheart guys. They tweaked our setup for us with the changes that have been made to this car over the last 2 weeks. Thanks to the new patch, a lot of the old setups have gone out the window. So there's been a lot of tweaking going on to make sure that we had a nice raceable, fast setup that wasn't too dangerous and didn't burn out the tires in 10 laps. So that's who I'd like to thank. And, of course, my wife for putting up with me.
Well, Craig Forsythe, after a consistent year, will finish 2nd in the point standings, but he'll also head into Season 3 of the Dark Horse IndyCar Series as the defending Indianapolis 500 champion. Once again, congratulations on a great run and a great win there, Craig.
Hey, thanks, guys. You stay safe.
Well, we knew it was going to be a long one coming in here, Sam, but it's one of those type of races where you have to stay for the finish because you never know what's going to happen. And like I said, it was a 4-wide situation that really set up who was going to win this race with that side-by-side battle going to turn 1 at the timing the yellow was thrown.
Yeah, there was a lot of 4-wide racing action in the middle and the back half of the field for most of this race whenever they were trying to make some bold moves, but we never had seen 4-wide passing up front for the lead until that final lap of trying to make the move. And Forsythe, who was second to the bottom, was able to somehow sneak his way through and still keep the momentum, even with the odd apex and corner that he went in with. And that's just a crazy way to finish out this race. And, Forsythe, congratulations to him finally getting that win and getting that monkey off the side of his back, because that was a hard one to finally get over.
Yeah, and how fitting that the 3 drivers that came into this race, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd in points, they were your podium finishers to end off the season here for Season 2 of the Dark Horse IndyCar Series. But what a crazy one here today. Obviously, I'm certain that there's the feeling of elation for Craig Forsythe, but after a while, probably the fatigue of exhaustion is going to set in as all of these drivers had to drive that grueling 500 miles, 200 laps around Indianapolis Motor Speedway. But at the end of the day, what a finish that sees Craig Forsythe get his first and only win of season 2, but it's a big one, the Yard of Bricks, the Indianapolis 500. Hope everybody enjoyed our coverage here today for this Indy 500 event. Sam, I appreciate you joining me here for this 200-lapper.
It's always a pleasure to be up in the booth with you, Seth.
Thanks to everybody that tuned in here. Somewhat earlier in the day broadcast for Flatout Racing Network, but we hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed the rest of your Saturday afternoon here. For Samuel Dyer, I'm Seth Cole. You've been watching another broadcast here courtesy of the Flatout Racing Network.